Welcome back to the adventures of the Attorney of Ace. Now, suffice to say, I have no idea how long this will be. We might end up doing something else at some point, but... Hello, Random. Hope you're having a good day. Welcome to more Ace Attorney, the adventures that are coming to a close. We're about to close the last book of Sherlock Sholmes. I assume so, unless there's a hidden sixth thing, but I doubt it. But I don't know how much is actually left in this trial, part 3. There might be a part 4, I don't know. I kind of doubt it, but... Sorry, dying. But I kind of doubt it, and at the very least I know there's going to be some, like, epilogue kind of thing, right? But, like, after that, we'll be done with this game, and I probably will never play it again, unless I feel the urge to get every achievement. Which I don't. Because, I mean... most of the achievements are weird. Like this one, for instance, the Ace of Spades. For having dug around to find every argument about shovels and spades. Or, of course, the classic, for having wrung your hands through every debate about ladders and step ladders. I don't really remember seeing that many ladders. You know? For having read every idea on Iris's blackboard. I didn't realize we could do that, and there's question mark ones. I did not do that either. Jeez, I am the worst. Means bottle before it falls from the table in episode 2. What? For having named Ouchie and Eugen as the victim of episode 1 in the great what? Oh, that's when you're being Ryutaro. Right. So how would you just keep... Can you name the victim? Yes, it was my I'm the great Ace Attorney Acolyte for doing all the things. A lot of these I'm like, I don't really know what I would have done to thoroughly examine the medical report card inside and out in episode 1. Okay. A lot of those are, like, you would have to know to do them, or you just have to not be as sharp as I apparently am not. Well, that's a scene. Well, we're gonna jump back into the final episode, and for those that forgot, we got Strongheart. We got Strongheart basically cornered. because we told him, hey, we have another person who knows exactly what happened during the autopsy of Clint Van Zeeks. Because he was going on about, well, there's no one left. I got rid of, all of them are dead. So clearly, like, well, no one will ever know if that evidence is fabricated. Even though I feel like they're going to point out the thing that we saw a lot earlier, which I think is the dog collar. And it's going to be like, no one would eat a dog collar. Because they said they got the evidence from his stupid stomach. And it's like, no one would eat that. Like, willingly. Why is that false? Have you eaten a dog collar before? Do you need to go to the doctor? No. I don't know if I believe you. Oh, okay. As long as you aren't debating whether someone would eat a dog collar or not. Of course, I don't know if that's the fabricated evidence. It's just that's the only thing I can think of that Sholmes was like, nope, you gotta get rid of this, quick. Yeah, true. I mean, there are people who eat hot dogs. They're pretty weird. And there are people who, put fried chicken inside a roll and then cover it in cold applesauce. But I don't know anyone that's ever done that before. But anyways, moving on to not weird things. Well, you're weird. No, I would never. How dare you suggest that I would do something that everyone would make fun of me for eons. I've only had IHOP's chicken and waffles, and I wasn't big on it because it was literally just, as it is presented, it's just chicken and waffles, like, on the same plate. And, like, there's nothing creative about that. And they didn't really go well together, but it was IHOP, and their chicken is not great. And their waffles are just waffles. Southern Comfort? I've only been to the South once. Please don't mimic you, but also hello. Hope you're having a good day. You haven't missed anything new. This time. We haven't even really started yet, to be honest. So, witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. Eugene Makatoba, lecturer of forensic medicine at the Imperial Yume University in Tokyo, Japan. And Professor Mikotoba, the young lady beside you is... this is Dr. Maria Gori. Scotland Yard's practicing coroner, daughter of Dr. Scythe, I understand. Yeah, Dr. Scythe. Why isn't she in here? Brandon can't tell you why she's here. She just appeared. Hello, Gum. Hope you're having a good day. And I never said it was me. I just said I knew someone who ate fluffy rolls by stuffing chicken and applesauce in them, because the fluffy roll made it kind of like a sweet and hot sandwich, you know? And just... I didn't judge them for it, so why should you? They were just the type that liked to eat everything on their plate at the same time. And it worked, so... You know, because eating everything individually is work. Why do that if it's all going to the same place and tastes good together, you know? You summon the strange Japanese man as a witness to the autopsy, but you don't summon Mama. That makes no sense. She was there too.
That's about the size of it. Had her eyes bored into the side of my cheek constantly. Whilst I was in the antechamber, too.
Poor man. The idea of making me shudder. Who eats everything at once? When it's a meal like that, just rolls, chicken, and applesauce, why wouldn't you? Or like, everyone dips their chicken or whatever into their mashed potatoes, right? Also, I don't know what clicked, but that really hurt my ear. Ow. Well, maybe you guys are the weird ones. Everyone I know does that. One food at a time, but that's effort, Random. But chicken and potatoes is like a thing, too. That's like KFC's whole famous bowl thing, is just mashed potatoes, chicken, and corn. That's literally all it is. And it's famous. Popeyes is better. I don't know if I've been to one, so I can't comment. I assume they have a lot of spinach, though. I don't like biscuits. Too dry.
Revelations about Dr. Scythe that came to light some days ago defiled the reputation of the entire judiciary. She was therefore deemed unfit to appear as a witness in today's proceedings. The Ministry of Justice decision on that is final.
Well, we wouldn't want any more perjury to be committed, would you? Would we? Okay. Ministry of Justice? Some questionable strings are being pulled, I think.
I remember you, Dr. Mikotoba, but I certainly never expected to be meeting you under these circumstances. Yeah, it's been a long while, Lord Strongheart. Prosecution understands you were a visiting student of forensic science in London 10 years ago. That's right. Study under Dr. Wilson at St. Steiner's.
So you were present at the autopsy of my brother, Lord Clint Van Zeeks?
I was, yes. I assisted Dr. Wilson the entire procedure.
Tisk. Mama's far more skilled than any Japanese man.
Well, Dr. Wilson asked me to be his primary assistant on that occasion.
His autopsy report was actually penned by you, I believe.
Yep, I noted all the doctor's findings, and when we were done, he read through the documents and signed it.
Poor Mama. As a secondary assistant, she wouldn't have such a good view of all the innards. So, Professor, do you remember the Inspector Gregson?
Yep, of course. If it wasn't for his insistence, Lord Van Zeek's autopsy would have never happened. Hello, Doof. Hope you're having a good day. But he was absolutely convinced it would reveal the decisive evidence against Genshin, you see. Lord Strongheart had to entreat nobility to allow it to take place. Do correct me if I'm wrong, my lord.
It was a result of that autopsy that mass murder was apprehended and justice was done. But Gregson admitted before he was killed. He admitted that the results of the autopsy were fabricated. You were there at the time, so you must testify. You have obligation to tell the truth about what really happened.
Absolutely. That's precisely why I'm here.
And that's why I'm here too. Very well then, you will give your formal testimony now, witness. Before you begin, a word of warning.
Oh?
You will state truthfully and accurately what you saw and what you heard at that time.
I wouldn't dream of doing otherwise, my lord.
The moment your testimony verges on supposition, I'll expel you from my courtroom. Remember that. How does someone sleep at night? They close their eyes and count sheep. And hello, Riesling. Hope you're having a good day.
My own observation, I couldn't say there was any indication of the autopsy results having been fabricated. Death resulted from the wound made by Western-style sword transfixing the heart. That I found a little strange.
There were no other signs of internal injury. Nothing questionable at all. Just that beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach. Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim, as a way of posthumously identifying his assailant, even though that would be stupid. No indication. Nothing to suggest fabrication.
As Amika Toba, are you certain about that?
Well, nothing I could possibly identify as such, much less swear to it in testimony.
I do wonder if I'm going to be... Oh. Well, that clears things up nicely. Only fabrication here, Asogi, has come from you.
What?
Claim the inspector confessed just before his death, but that is the fabrication. No, he freely acknowledged. I swear he did. Freely, with the tip of a sword of his throat. Man was clearly at his wit's end. Court will give no credit to this confession that was uttered in obvious desperation. Quite simply, there was nothing questionable about the investigation of Lord Clint Van Zeek's death. And with this testimony we have, without question, uncovered the whole truth of the matter.
If I may, my lord. There was most certainly something questionable about it, and the whole truth does rather elude us, I feel.
I beg your pardon?
Well, you're obviously aware of the facts of the case. All four of the Professor's previous victims died when an enormous beast was set upon them that ripped out their throats.
Oh, such horrifying crimes.
But curiously, the killer's last victim, Lord Clint Van Zeeks, suffered a different fate.
Yeah, you're right.
He was stabbed through the heart with a sword.
That's enough.
I believe I warned you about this, witness. Promise to curtail your testimony as soon as enter the realms of supposition and speculation. Very well, my lord. In that case, the defense will pursue a conclusion to this during the cross-examination. What? I have the right to cross-examine every witness after the testimony. And I fully intend to exercise that right. Yunsuke. Pray that even the presiding judge has no authority to contravene the letter of law. As I'm sure every member of the judiciary present in the gallery would agree.
Whatever, I don't care. It's not like you're gonna find anything. It's like, whatever.
Very well, me begin, counsel. However, the moment your argument strays from the established facts, I will not hesitate to bring the cross-examination to an end. Proceed with caution. Yeah, my lord, whatever. I don't care.
My motivation,
Alright, honestly, I'm gonna have to look through all the things we have on him, because I don't remember. I do wonder if the sword is going to be important. He did say Western style sword, so like, you know, right there. Mr. Sholmes is here. He did say to pull those at some point. Then Van Zeeks, British, 33. I don't know if the British thing is important. Between 9 p.m. and midnight. Okay. Single stab wound to the heart. Other superficial external wounds inactive Indicative of a duel. Okay. Recent scarlet ink stains visible a little on the ring fingers of the right hand, but no document corresponding ink was found. Huh. It's weird that they also say vital evidence recovered, but didn't say what it was. And these are all Greg's and stuff, so I don't care about those. Anything important here? I mean, it's important that this guy has a big old smile on his face. And that's the assassination thing. So we really don't have anything, so I must have to press stuff. Press this one. All the previous 4 killings attributed to the professor. Victims were killed by an enormous dog, I believe. Their throats were, well, mauled?
Correct. Yet Lord Van Zieks was stabbed.
Do you mean to say, I think Lord Clay Van Zieks may have not in fact been one of the professor's victims? No basis on which the doubt findings of the investigation carried out at the time. But Genshin Asogi confessed all his crimes upon his arrest. He admitted having taken the lives of all 5 members of the aristocracy.
Well, yet the beast was used to carry out the killings was never identified. No evidence was found to suggest that Genshin had ever kept a dog.
A true hound of Vil. Never found the dog, huh? But, you weren't actually present at the autopsy yourself, were you, Dr. Gory? Does that matter? Well, I just wonder how useful your testimony can be in that case, really. I mean, it would be different if your mother, Dr. Scythe, were in the stand, but... But other people break about the case. Mama told me about the story countless times. Statement I just made exactly what's written in the autopsy report.
I did confirm that myself at the time, it's true. Besides the stab wound, there were no other signs of internal injury or trauma.
I see. Mama told me all about it. Oh? Said there was nothing of note internally. But they did find an amazing piece of evidence. Something unbelievable. Unbelievable? What do you mean?
Come on, Dr. Gory. What was it?
See that beautiful, dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach. Which is... What exactly was it, though? What does beautiful but dangerous mean? Well, it was a sparkly and round with a hole, as if it might slip over a finger, perhaps.
It was a ring. You know what those are? Belonging to Genshin Asogi.
My father's ring was inside the victim's stomach? So it wasn't the collar.
At the time, Genshin wore a large ring on the digitus quarters of his left hand, the 4th or ring finger. I understood it was some sort of keepsake.
My father left Japan for London 16 years ago. I was 8 years old. I remember that ring. You do? My father's possessions were sent to our family home in Japan after his death, but the ring wasn't among them. Obviously not. It was a key piece of evidence. Remains under lock and key the stores of Scotland Yard to this day.
After the autopsy, Genshin was summoned by the police to check for the presence of his ring. It wasn't on his hand, of course. Moreover, there were deep abrasions on his finger where it had been pulled off. They arrested the man there and then, right before my eyes.
How could they? I brought the ring along with me today. What? You just do that? It is, a bit dusty from using the stores.
Good gracious, yes, that's it. I haven't seen that 10 long years.
And that was found inside the victim's stomach?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
You hesitated there, Professor Mikotoba. Should we read something into that?
Ah, well, it's just that I'm thinking back to it now. Didn't actually witness the moment it was extracted from the victim's body. That precise moment, Dr. Wilson asked me to fetch him a new scalpel, you see. Dr. Gorey, the removal of his historic evidence from the stores requires my consent, does it not?
No, it doesn't. You don't work for Scotland Yard.
However, I came to be here. The court cannot deny as crucial evidence for today's proceedings.
Very well, you may submit it.
That's the sort of ring normally seen in Japan. It almost looked like claws protecting that jewel.
Let's examine it very carefully, Mr. Naruhodo. I don't like being at the last one, because it's always like, it'll take me to the, we need to figure this out dialogue. But also, he did mention it would do a reasonable scratch.
That claw's doing a good job protecting the equally fat gemstone in the middle of the ring.
It's not fat. Yeah, if you were clumsy, you could give yourself a rather nasty cut on them, I should think.
Ow! Now my finger's bleeding. These claws are really sharp.
Oh my, that was very quick clumsiness, Mr. Naruhodo. Even for you.
Ugh, don't make such a dangerous ring. You couldn't swallow it without doing yourself some fairly serious damage, surely.
Sticky mochi bun about the size would go down much better, with some red bean paste in the middle. What?
Someone that clumsy me would probably manage to choke on it somehow.
Relatable. Anything else notable on this thing? Not really. The only notable thing about this ring is it's sharp. Okay.
Court has heard that the ring was extracted from the victim's stomach. But you didn't actually see it being removed, did you, Professor Mikotoba?
That's right. As I said in my testimony before, that moment I was fetching a replacement scalpel for Dr. Wilson requested.
In other words, can neither confirm nor deny whether this ring, in fact, really came from the victim's stomach or not.
What are you suggesting, Counsel?
That the ring was never in the victim's stomach to begin with. Entirely feasible that Dr. Wilson fabricated that detail about the autopsy.
What are you saying? That Dr. Wilson...
Dr. Wilson was in possession of the ring in advance after it was somehow stolen from Mr. Asogi. And he produced it during the procedure, pretending to have found it there and then in the victim's stomach.
Objection! Supposition abyss. What possible evidence do you have to support such a rash claim?
This evidence, right here.
That's the autopsy report. Explicit in that report, Counsel, other than the ring, nothing unusual was noted internally, so I'm not sure how you intend to prove your point.
You've already done it for me, my lord. The lack of internal injury says it all.
What?
To swallow a ring of this size would require considerable effort and determination, which we know Clint Van Zeek's had neither of. In addition to its size, there's these sharp claws around the gemstone to contend with.
My brother was a determined man, and on the brink of death even more so, I'm sure.
Enough to bite off someone's super sharp ring? Off their finger?
He would have stopped at nothing to ensure that evil killer was brought to justice.
But if he really swallowed that enormous ring, inconceivable that no traces of its passage down his throat would have remained as internal trauma.
Now you've arrived at the sticking point. And precisely why I had my doubts about the finding myself 10 years ago.
Why didn't you say something at the time?
I did. I still remember the conversation I had with Dr. Wilson in the laboratory that day.
It's gonna be the first time we actually see him talk. Or, never mind. I guess it's just a black screen. Because the first time we saw Dr. Wilson, he was dead. This is a very curious thing to find in a man's stomach, wouldn't you say?
But Isn't that rather peculiar, Dr. Wilson?
What's that now, Mikotoba?
Well, if he swallowed a ring of that size with the sharp metal claws it has, surely you'd expect to see some damage to the throat and esophagus. Torn miraculous membranes, at the very least.
Dr. Mikotoba, may I remind you that I have vastly more experience than you?
I'm terribly sorry. That's not really relevant, though.
Think of plenty of ways to explain why no injuries be seen. No, let's say this. Victim would appear to have ingested the item as evidence to identify his assailant. Go ahead, write it down. So I was right. Dr. Wilson deliberately fabricated the results of the autopsy to implicate my father. I'm disappointed, Counsel. That argument is nothing more than speculation. What? Dr. Wilson was Britain's leading authority in forensic science and autopsy work. No scientific basis on which to doubt the man's expert opinion. No, there's just common sense, which is in itself a scientific basis.
Pardon the interruption, my lord, but damage to the mucous membranes of the throat is easily identified, even in living subjects.
Using a device called an endoscope, recently demonstrated in practical use in France. I want one. The government can pay.
I don't think so. Dr. Gory,
Rest assured that your removal of the evidence from the stores without permission will not go unpunished. I don't really care. We open up the dead to find the truth.
I beg your pardon?
But Mama, she chose to stitch your corpses up, with all her secrets inside. That's wrong. Dr. Gory, looking as though she's chosen to walk a different path to her mama. Pray forgive me for finding yet another chalice. And breaking it. That's what, 4, 5? Yes, the ring. The one ring. The ring with the thing. You put it on, you go poof. Small gremlin monster crawl down my brother's throat and steal it. What about the ring? I've just remembered something. An earlier incident. What incident? The one I recounted to you before, about a memory I have. A memory of a murder. Sorry, wait, no, Edward said that. Of Genshin Osogi having saved my life. What? My father? Saved your life? It was 10 years ago, on a foggy night. We went into the eclipse and found my late father's castle, but we left. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. All of a sudden, bang boom. Don't make a peep, you're coming with us. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. Bang. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. I drank it. He shielded me. I filled my hollow chalice with his blood. It was the ring finger on his left hand that he used to wear that ring. Are you saying? I've always believed those thugs were after me, but now I'm starting to question if perhaps I wasn't the intended target after all. Wait, but... Genshin was arrested 2 days after that attack, and in that short interval, the decisive evidence needed to indict him was miraculously found. You mean the ring was stolen from him? You think that's what those thugs were after that night? Objection. You pathetic coward. Expect me to believe that you weren't involved? What do you mean by that? No, Mr. Asogi, I expect you to die. It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who took it. You stole my father's ring. You set the whole thing up so you could paint him as a mass murderer and have him arrested. Objection. Kazuma, shut up. Kazuma, open your eyes. Ryunsuke? You must know deep down. Truth can be completely obscured even when your judgment's only slightly clouded. But at the moment, you seem to be floundering through a dense fog, much like your father was when he was shot. Is that why you were so insistent I should be present in this trial? To see you like this? Well, this is an amusing spectacle. What a grandiose expression on your face, as if you were Lady Justice herself. Seems you've thoroughly convinced yourself of this alleged fabrication of the autopsy results. Also, Phoenix pointed this out last time, but the scales are still not even though we took a break. I remember thinking about it afterward, but it's weird that even after they faded to black, we still haven't fixed the scales. So much so, you're apparently blind to the blatant contradiction that'd be born out of it. What? Though it's extremely hard to believe, let's just imagine there was some misconduct during the autopsy. If that were the case, why would Asogi not have disputed the findings in his trial? In the closed court hearing 10 years ago, the defendant never once denied the claims against him. Isn't that right, Lord Van Zeeks? Yes, that is indeed correct. Upon hearing the verdict of guilty, he merely closed his eyes, quietly accepting the judgment. The actions of a man who has accepted responsibility for his deeds and resigned to his fate. But then... Oh my, that's very strange. Mr. Asogi did nothing to oppose the charges against him, then... That would surely mean there was no fabricated evidence. No, it would mean he knew there was no reason... no way he could argue. An obvious conclusion to which you should have arrived at many minutes ago, Prosecutor Asogi. You twisted loyalty and clouded judgment are hampering your ability for logical thought. Genjin Asogi's silence at his hearing can mean only one thing. That he was told to be silent or he'll die. There was no fabrication of evidence during the autopsy of his final victim 10 years ago. That's not what that means at all, though. But if that autopsy was above the board, there would be nothing to stop Lord Strongheart bringing this trial to an immediate conclusion. Objection! Objection! Thank you, Ryunsuke. One for your frank words just now. This trial may very well have ended prematurely. Kazuma? What's this latest absurdity, Counsel? My lord, your reasoning is perfectly sound. But for one giant hole, I beg your pardon? You claim my father's silence was due to the fact that there was no fabricated evidence. There's another possible explanation. You've overlooked the possibility that he had a reason for maintaining that silence. Objection! Silence that would lead them to being convicted and sent to his death? If the autopsy results were an invention, there's no conceivable reason why the man wouldn't have protested. This is my finger, by the way. Did you ever notice that I curve my wrist when I'm pointing directly at someone? Even though I'm pointing at the judge, Kern. Don't worry about it. Still, what a weird finger. It's like 3 separate hills. They just made it out of rectangles. His hollow chalice has less polygons than his finger does. Objection! Objection! Oh, those results were an invention, alright. There's no question of that. Or are you forgetting that 2 people with connection to the autopsy have been assassinated? If I force grievances from my mind, I start to see you in a very different light. I think perhaps it's you who's been living in delusion all these 10 years. But me? Kazuma's created one last chance for us here, Mr. Naruhodo. If only we could show there was a reason for his father's silence in the trial. Reason why the man would have said nothing even though he was innocent. Could it have been part of some negotiation, perhaps? Enough for talk. This court must be shown evidence. What proof do you have that could possibly explain Asogi's silence in court? Amazing question. Asogi papers? I don't remember what they said. No. Except maybe sending his family all his stuff, but that didn't really end up doing anything, right? Probably shouldn't lead with the amazing question. Why not? It's a good question. I'm trying to think. What was... He got paper. He got the Asogi papers, and Mr. Vigil here saw him writing them. His sword? I don't know. Well, we've already looked at the sword. I don't think anything was in there. Nothing new there. I hate that the one time we get to draw this sword is when it's evidence. Do we pull out the lucky charm? I got it back as evidence, but I didn't want it. This dramatic music is not helping. What does this say? Violate clause 1232. Redundancy to pay and other financial benefits are fully revoked. Escape from the comment prior to execution. Jailbreak plot was conceived prior to the convict's incarceration. Negotiating with the prison staff in order to secure assistance. Full disclosure information regarding this negotiation will be demanded. Okay, so it must be this one. 1 second. It wasn't Penny. Though I've sadly had to kick Penny off of the bed for a while. I made her a doggy bed on the ground because she just kind of keeps using the bathroom everywhere. She can't help it, but it's like I can't keep washing the bed. Truth against Asogi's silence during this trial resulted in his conviction. I don't know if that was the word. That didn't actually lead to his execution. On the contrary, it led to his escape. An escape that was only possible because he'd been sentenced to death. Although I find it hard to believe my father would have negotiated in that way, the defense is correct. Fake execution, falsification of a death certificate, and a jailbreak inside a coffin. One thing I need to check real quick. How old is Kazuma? 24, really? How old am I? I'm not even in this list. Because he mentioned a bit ago in the previous thing that he was 8 years old when his father was executed, and I was like, that was 10 years ago. That would make sense. I'm just kind of surprised that Sasato is, well,
much, much younger? Despite being our judicial assistant for so long? Like, she's only 16. A fake execution, falsification of a death certificate, and a jailbreak inside a coffin. Clearly such an elaborate plan couldn't have been carried out by my father alone. He must have had the help of a collaborator from the judiciary. I have here a dismissal notice of the chief warder who was working in the prison at the time. The notes read, there are indications that the jailbreak was in planning prior to the inmate's incarceration. In other words, there were suggestions of some sort of negotiation between Mr. Asogi and the British government. In exchange for silent court, he was given an assurance that he would be broken out of prison. Yes, with that sort of clandestine agreement in place, I can imagine he would have kept very quiet. I wonder if Mr. Drebber's gonna show back up. Because he saw who shot the guy. Now I'm thinking about it, he saw the guy who shot the professor. I go further than that, in fact. I would say, elaborate jailbreak of Mr. Asogi can be explained in no other way. Order in the court. First fabricated evidence, and now a jailbreak conspiracy. Of course, because it's all intimately linked. Prosecution wishes to summon a new witness to the stand. Witnesses? People are going to testify about the jailbreak that took place 10 years ago. Governor Caden? And the poor chief warder at the prison. I won't allow this trial to turn into a farce. Summon the governor of the prison after all these years. I wouldn't be any trouble, my lord. What? Father? Is he already here? My dear friend may appear to be a little rattle-pated at times. Rattle-pated? What does that mean? What does rattle-pated mean? Hang on. Is that like... kind of a ditz? Lacking sense or direction. Yeah, that summarizes Sholmes. I can assure you he was extremely thorough. I had both Barclay and the local prison earlier. Scatterbrained. Asking Governor Caden and Mr. Vigil to attend the Old Bailey as a matter of extreme urgency. Mr. Sholmes did that? Are you telling me that... Both men are, unless I'm mistaken, waiting just outside the courtroom at this very moment. My lord, you must permit this trial to proceed as you declared it at its outset. Promise we would stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Very well, bring in the witnesses. Make no mistake, I too would like nothing more than to lay this business to rest once and for all. And by that I mean I'm going to have you all killed. If I kill everyone in this room, who's going to stop me? I suppose I'm still up here for some reason. I don't know why I'm the only one still here. Yeah, he didn't want to uncover the truth. He just wants this to lay to rest. Just stop talking about it. Would the new witnesses state their names and occupations for the court, please? Barry Caden, Governor of Barclay Prison. Everyone calls me gossip. I sell jaunty little tidbits that pacifies you. Your other persona, if you don't mind. 1 second. Oh, I do beg your pardon, of course. My name is Daily Vigil. Used to be a chief warder at the Barclay prison. The reason you've been summoned here to court today is to testify about the jailbreak of the so-called professor 10 years ago. Losh, the professor? I've been through all this 4 decades ago. Conclusion is that there wasn't anything up untoward to happen. Convicts escape your prison, Governor. Hardly what you call nothing untoward. Well...
Convict's death certificate was somehow falsified after he was allegedly executed. And he escaped the prison inside his own coffin. A plan of that complexity could never have been carried out without the help of somebody influencing the inside of the prison. Governor Caden, don't imagine that the passage of time will afford you any protection. This isn't Ace Attorney 1, where there's like that weird 3 or 10-year thing. If it turns out that you were involved in the plot to break Mr. Asogi out of your prison, then of course, consequences will be very serious. In all likelihood, a capital punishment. Gads, hold on there, laddie. All I did was... Witness, Governor Caden. Sir. Critical role to play in the public safety of our country. Great responsibility to shoulder. Submitting your testimony in court cannot be understated. Therefore, think carefully before you speak. And Prosecutor Asogi, if you'll threaten the witness again, you will be held in contempt of court. My apologies, my lord. No disputing the fact that an intricate jailbreak was enacted 10 years ago. Clearly you were both involved in some way. So you'll testify before the court now and explain exactly what took place. He could have brought his birds with him, Reeslane. That would make him super evil. Very well, let the witnesses give their formal testimony. Tell the court everything you know of the plot to break the Asogi out of Barclay 10 years ago.
They, the Japanese jocks, found guilty. Directive came from the prosecutor's office. I assigned the convict chief order vigil here and put the plan in action behind the scenes.
I was responsible for Asogi right up to the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot.
I didn't get into no negotiation between the convict and the prosecutor's office. All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's Great British Empire.
A directive from the prosecutor's office? You saying that was the jailbreak plot?
Ah, that's right.
Who sent it? Who authorized that plan?
I didn't know that.
Saying you don't know?
Listen, there wasn't anything about the professor case that wasn't unusual in some way.
I don't know how to pronounce half the words he says.
I didn't ask any questions. I just did what I was told to do. More than I can tell you.
If the jailbreak plan originated from the prosecutor's office, then one thing is very clear. As suspected, there were clandestine dealings going on between Mr. Asogi and the office. Jailbreak was promised in exchange for Mr. Asogi admitted the crimes he didn't commit. That, counsel, is nothing more than speculation on your part. No, it's not. So, let me ask the defense.
Oh, yeah, my lord? What's up?
Fail to see how these witnesses have any more pertinent information here. Do you intend to assert your right to cross-examination?
Yeah?
I have no intention of squandering a single opportunity, my lord. Seems all you Japanese are fiercely tenacious. Very well, proceed, counsel. I bet he's very upset that he can't bribe either of us.
Japanese jock found guilty. Director came from the prosecutor's office.
I don't care about that one. What this one?
Mr. Vigil, you didn't know anything about it at all?
That's right. My only role in the scheme was as a scapegoat. That's right, isn't it, Governor?
Some poor beggar had to take a rap for it.
Alright then, who else did know about the plan?
Not the first idea, laddie. Part of the whole business basically just dealing with the aftermath. Wouldn't be surprised if there were other folk in the prison service who've been given similar orders. You don't know who else was involved. Ah, that's right. All I can tell you, that the night it all actually happened, person at the reins, was Dr. Stevens.
Dr. Courtney Stevens, Dr. Scythe as she's known, now. Ah, why did I have to get caught up in such a terrible business? At the very least, you know, Vigil could probably go work as an actor now, right?
Was anything unusual happening lead up to that night?
Oh, everything was unusual. Exception after exception. After all, it was the professor, the man who had terrorized the country as never before with his crimes. Or to hide his identity, he was forced to wear an iron mask over his head. Hideous treatment.
Bill was surprisingly docile for someone who'd taken the lives of 5 of the country's nobles.
Being the chief warder, I was the only person permitted to approach his cell. Or stick to his gossip persona, but yeah, that doesn't really make any money though. And now Gregson's dead, so he can't pay him. So I hardly believe I was duped by my own country.
Yeah, I believe you should probably get used to that. I believe you jumped for the window of the governor's office with jailbreak was blamed on you, didn't you? Losh, Vigil. Can't apologize enough.
No, Governor, I don't believe you can. It won't change what's happened. What else can you tell us about the situation? Not to, break the... not to break the sadness going on here.
You already acknowledged the orders came from the prosecutor's office to arrange the man's escape. Must have been some sort of negotiation. It's the only explanation. Ah, well, be that as it may, I know nothing about that. Witness stands no place for telling you what you know for sure. I know that much, I do.
Presume you also know this. Not telling what you do know is a criminal offense. So you were just following orders, is that it? I'm afraid that won't absolve you of guilt here.
Man was still killed illegally, even if he was condemned criminal. May very well be found complicit in murder, Governor.
That's what it has to be, is it? Even with the threat of conviction, you won't break your silence. I pressed the first one for... That's work.
You carried the plan in its entirety? I did everything I could at the time.
As you know, Genshin Hisogi was shot dead in Logate Cemetery after his escape. Tell me, was that part of the plan too?
My instructions were due with getting the jock out of jail, nothing more. Can't tell you anything about what happened after that. Only, personally, I believe his death's the last part of the plan.
What does this all mean?
Excuse me.
Mr. Vigil, something wrong?
Oh geez, he still has a thing on his neck. Yes, sir, what can I do for you, sir?
He's saluting now? What is it, some sort of Barclay convention? What Governor Kane was just saying seemed to upset you. Did it bring something to mind, perhaps?
Oh, he's still wearing his ring. For the last 10 years, I've completely blotted out the memories of that time from my mind. I was betrayed by my superiors, in the name of my country. Just as my father was betrayed, it seems. But you see, thinking back now, I really can't imagine the shooting of Mr. Hisogi in the cemetery was ever part of the plan.
What makes you think that?
Well, it just doesn't make sense, does it? To make the man admit to crimes he didn't commit with the promise of a jailbreak, only to kill him in the end. Treachery of the worst kind, but the point is, if the intention was always to betray him, why would there be any need for all the shenanigans of an escape?
Yeah, that's common sense.
That's quite true. If you would ever negotiate with the Hisogi and never intend to keep his or her end of the bargain, it would have been far simpler to just let the man be executed in prison as dictated by his sentence. Ooh la 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 la. I suppose this was all a bad romance. It all happened in the vast chamber of secrets as Barclay behind high prison walls. Suppose nobody knows what really went on in the execution room now. Yes, it's an unsettling mystery, certainly.
Truth be told, there's a wee matter that's never quite made sense to me.
Another matter?
Believe there was some kind of negotiation behind the jailbreaks between Hisogi and the body at the top. Doesn't quite add up, does it? Governor Caden insists you explain these doubts that you have by amending your formal testimony. Gads! Go on then. Damn, these fellas didn't have nothing to bargain with.
I have nothing to bargain with. What does that mean?
Mean to the crimes. That was what he had to bargain with, surely. I can see that myself. After all, did the prosecution know have conclusive evidence against Carly, eh?
This, you mean? Discovered during the final victim's autopsy. Every possibility that conclusive evidence was fabricated by Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office. Objection. Possibilities are all very well, but nothing has been proven. Can holler about this misconduct in the trial 10 years ago all you like. But if you can't establish that it happened with hard evidence, no one's going to listen.
That's right. What I'm saying is, convict had nothing. Nothing he could use for any kind of bargaining at all.
Witness makes an astute point. Logically, it would seem negotiation could have taken place.
Yet the plan to break the man out of his prison was definitely into practice. Must have been armed with something that gave him an angle to negotiate.
I think they did say he had one more weapon when he was talking to Vigil.
Has something compelled him to agree.
What a terrible thing, using the law to legitimize such an underhand dealing with a desperate man. Only to double-cross him in the end. It's quite the opposite of justice. I wonder who would possibly do that. Who would have such a strong heart for evil?
Yeah, but healing, there's something about this apparent negotiation that doesn't quite add up.
Something doesn't quite add up? No, it doesn't. It doesn't add up that you keep reading my brain. I feel like a lot of these thought bubbles he has just aren't actually thought bubbles. He just says them out loud and we're just... We're just supposed to take that as it is, I guess. I'm not a thought bubble. The only weapon I have left.
Professing under oath to murders he didn't commit on a verbal assurance of later being broken out of prison. Genshin Sogi was taking an incredibly risky gamble.
Very true. Nothing's just stopped the British breaking their word and executing him behind closed doors anyway. Why didn't he use the whole, like, diplomatic immunity thing? Under normal circumstances, no man would stake his life on a gentleman's agreement like that.
Which means that Mr. Sogi must have had a trump card. Something that guaranteed he wouldn't be betrayed. Some kind of weapon. Havers, fella couldn't have possibly had anything like that. Yeah, but you know he did, Governor. The Asogi papers, the name given to the last will and testament of the Genshin Asogi. Ah! Turns out Mr. Asogi was hiding his will in the cell of the Barclay. Chief Warder Vigil caught him with it one day. You squealed, did you wee rat? I told you to keep that a secret.
You can't touch me now.
Bailiff, please apprehend the man for manhandling the other witness. Mr. Vigil caught sight of that will through the bars of the convict cell. Mr. Asogi pleaded with the warder.
Alright then. Well, what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now.
A weapon? After the convict had been killed following the elaborate pretense of a jailbreak, that document mysteriously disappeared, didn't it?
Well, yes. All the prison warders searched through the belongings in his cell, but that will was just nowhere to be found.
As I understand it, an exclusive research was made for the document, which came known as the Asogi papers.
Well, one of the bailiffs got paid to be Sholmes for a minute. Other than that, I don't think they do anything but call people into the room. And they're not even good at doing that.
I mean, like, think back to, like, one of the first cases where they had someone set a whole carriage on fire. The bailiffs just don't do squat.
Governor Caden, I believe you ordered your prison staff to find it at all costs, didn't you? Eh? Would I be right in saying you knew? You knew that the so-called Asogi papers had the potential to make great waves somehow? James, what the blaze you blathering about? The will was found, right and proper. Fell a cell where I said it should be.
Ow, but how can that be? Where in his cell? We searched the place. Ow, top to bottom. Ow, dang it.
Didn't you do a proper job, eh? You something wally galoot.
You can't criticize me now. I don't work for you.
I showed it to you before, didn't I, you on lower?
Yeah, you did.
I have a document here. Written in Japanese, and it reads, The Last Will and Testament of Genshin Asogi.
Which means everything is as it should be.
Not quite, my lord. You see, undeniable inconsistency here.
What? What inconsistency?
Mr. Asogi described the document as the only weapon he had left, and yet this will contains nothing of significance at all. Nothing that would have given convict any leverage.
Are you suggesting, my learned friend, that it Last Will and Testament stored at Barclay Prison all these years is actually a fake? He did. But I assume that Sholmes paid him with, like, I don't know, a signature to get his hat.
As is clearly been demonstrated already, what went on at Barclay Prison was far from above board.
That last vilification by the defense was an affront to the entire British legal system.
You're an affront to the entire British legal system.
This absurd notion of a weapon is something for which we have only the former Chief Warder's word. That man could quite easily be lying, or at the very least, sorely mistaken.
As could you.
What? Ow, dang it. I definitely heard him say that. I swear.
Clearly we need to get to the bottom of this.
Need to know exactly what happened with these so-called Asogi papers. A waste of time. If the will was fake, where is the real document?
Objection. Mr. Vigil was stabbed in the back by a Judiciary 10 years ago. He lost everything. Very nearly his own life. And now you're going to do it again. You already branded him a liar and you turned your back on him without even letting him defend himself.
This Barclay Prison is hiding something. Clearly the jailbreak was masterminded by someone in the prosecutor's office. It's clear that some legitimate negotiations took place. Your lordship is going to gloss over these obvious and reprehensible facts. What did you say? Nothing. Testify. 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 Would seem that vocal few here are utterly blind to the truth. That I'm evil. Very well then, let the witness testify again. Tell the court precisely what you think you saw the convict's last will and testament. Yes, sir. Why is his neck still sore? How hard did they pull him with that thing? As the warder of responsible condemned convicts, I attended to Mr. Asogi and kept watch over his cell. Night after, ow, dang it. He was found guilty in court. He was doing something with that will in his cell. We turned the cell inside out looking for it after his execution, but to no avail.
I only found a boot the Asogi papers when directive came telling me to impound them. Document was in the fold of the fellow's robe that was left in his cell. Kimono, I think it's called.
Kimono? But he was... in his kimono? That's a lie. Ow. Ow. We searched every inch of the man's cell. We took through all his clothes. It can't be true.
Were you not satisfied with calling me a liar once, eh? You wee waffle? Dang waffle.
Huh, nothing you can do about it now. You don't have any hold over me anymore. Other than the hold you'd like to take on my cravat. Of course, that's what you're going to do, is he psychic? How is he pulling his own tie? What happened?
I ain't doing nothing to you, guy. I don't know how you're doing that to yourself, but I ain't doing nothing.
Gonna give me a good shake again? Or are you too scared? Scared, little baby? Yeah, little and large. What a double act. Complied with Asogi's will as far as possible. All his personal effects were delivered to his family home in Japan. Except for the ring, of course. As a courtesy to his homeland, the most notorious killer our country has ever seen. We are much obliged. I confirm all my father's belongings arrived safely.
Ah, and you cannot deny the handwritings out of your old man, eh?
Yes, there's no mistaking that it's my father's brushwork.
Really?
This last will and testament was the man's last weapon, was it? I think we can safely assume the convict was merely prattling, knowing his end was nigh. Why would he do that if he knew he was going to get out? So, counsel for defense, your cross-examination, please.
Yes, my lord.
Really want the judge, like the normal judge, to come up and just kick that guy out of his chair. Ow, darn it. What was he doing?
He pleaded with you not to report him, didn't he?
Yes, that's right.
Like darn jerk you are, you didn't tell me. Land treat bleach a trush, that was.
See the man in a noble spirit. I found myself wanting to treat him accordingly. According to what you told us 2 days ago, convict had been strictly forbidden from having any writing materials whatsoever. Yes, you're quite right.
Ah, so when exactly was the will penned? Ah, before the man was remanded in Barclay, obviously.
Yes, the prosecutor's office under supervision of the relevant authorities. Personally instructed Asogi to make a will for the benefit of his family and his homeland.
In that case, why was it found in his cell? What do you mean by that?
Well, if it was penned at the prosecutor's office,
you would expect it to remain there for safekeeping, surely.
Hello, Griffey. Hope you're having a good day.
Ah! It's curious. Doesn't seem to be any obvious explanation for why it was subsequently found in his convict cell.
Oh, well, Vince makes an astute point. Well, Governor?
Prison governor can't explain the inner workings of the prosecutor's office.
In that case, Lord Strongheart, perhaps you can shed some light on the matter. I am unable to offer an explanation here and now. What? I wish to have consulted with the notary responsible for the will at the time. That was you. The fact that my father's will was discovered in his cell, clearly inconsistent with what was expected. I want to know why.
Another inexplicable mystery, then.
Well, the thing is about that will. Can I get back to my testimony now? Where'd you look? Do you look under the boards?
The governor ordered a search for the will, as I understand it. Is that right?
Yes. And when I reported back that we couldn't find it, he grabbed me by the cravat and yelled, "Cannot be!" It disappeared completely in my face. How is he doing that? Maybe he should be a magician.
Ah, well. Telling the governor to keep everyone working as hard as they should.
I think the governor needs a wee taste of his own medicine, Mr. Nardo.
Yeah, the point is, it was clearly considered a very important document, wasn't it?
Proved impossible to find. That's right. Then before I knew it, it was in the morning paper. That blood-curdling article. Executed mass murder who'd risen from the dead. Oh, you mean...
The article based on Mr. Draper's experience in Logate Cemetery.
Yes, that was it. The day after I'd read the news, I was summoned to the governor's office. And... that's when the awful accusation was made.
That you aided Genshin and Asogi to escape from prison, resulting in your immediate dismissal.
I'm afraid I really don't remember anything after that.
As the governor of prison, I had no choice. Couldn't have done anything else.
You could have just not gone along with the plan. It's pretty simple, I think. Right?
It came from the same source as the one instructing about the jailbreak? Ah, from the top levels of the prosecutor's office, which I'm not, legally supposed to obey or anything.
Well, the prison doesn't work for the prosecution. It's not how that works.
What name was on it? I didn't before, and I didn't know now.
How do you... What accent is this?
All I can tell you is that my orders were to do everything in my power to find that document. Directive said it'd be somewhere inside the fella's cell.
Document.
Is that the wording? Document, not will? Ah, that's what it said. Am I clutching at straws here? I just wonder if it was really Genshin Asobi's last will and testament that the sender of the directive was after.
Can you enter testimony then witness?
I was in the fold of the fellow's robe that was left in his cells. Kimono, I think it's called. Mr. Asogi's kimono? Ah, the one he brought to him when he was locked up. Yeah, he was permitted to have his personal effects with him during his incarceration, I understand. That's right. Guaranteed much freedom as possible during the few days before his execution.
Indeed, he has a number of items on his personal significance, I remember. He was very reluctant to part with them. Some books, that kimono, his sword.
His sword?
Kuruma, the famous sword of the Asogi clan. It bears the soul of my family. Still sad it doesn't talk.
I don't doubt it, but wasn't really getting at that. Giving his soul to the clan, could the man have had a more obvious weapon?
Have some respect, Ryusuke.
Respectful silence? Warders carried firearms at old times. The inmates had shackles around their ankles. He couldn't hurt anybody with that thing. Still, he was allowed a sword, but no writing materials? Ah, wrote that will before it came to stay with us at Barclay, you see.
That's not true. Dr. Mikotoba was asked to bring the necessary Japanese writing implements to the prosecutor's office. The Suzuri ink stone, black sami ink, and Hanshi rice paper, no doubt.
I was present when he wrote it. It's hard to say. The letter just looked like a screaming mass of jet black earthworms to me.
Excuse me.
All of their testimony just now contradicted what they were told, but whatever.
You feeling faint, Mr. Vigil? Mr. Vigil!
Sir, it was Scarlet, sir.
What?
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to blurt it out like that.
Less swaying and more explaining would be helpful.
Something about the testimony we just heard? You recalled something of importance? Something of importance, possibly. Or possibly not. You never tell which way he's leaning, I'm afraid.
It's probably because he's leaning both left and right. Feds asked that Mr. Vigil be permitted to supplement his testimony with this possibly or possibly not important detail.
Permission granted.
Go ahead, Mr. Vigil.
Yes, it was Scarlet. Scarlet, where are you? Remember, the document was written in scarlet ink, but perhaps I'm mistaken. Scarlet ink? Do we have anything about that? There's his ring, but... There's the Asogi thing. I thought I saw something red here about his finger. Recent scarlet ink stains visible on little and ring fingers on the right hand, but no document corresponding ink was found. Was not blood.
Objection.
Scarlet-colored writing is what you said you thought you saw, Mr. Vigil. And I believe that's exactly what you did see.
What?
Heavens again, you know evidence to say that. Have a look at this report. Every time I do, you get a retort.
That's my brother's autopsy report.
Yeah, and there's something in here that's bothered me since I first read it. It states that scarlet-colored ink stains were noted on the fingers of the victim's right hand.
Yes, so it does.
How do you read that? It's over here.
Scarlet ink?
Now, I'm not familiar with the habits of the British aristocracy, I freely admit. I would hazard a guess that they don't all go around with ink stains on their fingertips, do they?
Your wit is not appreciated. My brother was a well-bred and facetious man. Should ink have sullied his fingertips, he would have cleaned them immediately, or cut them off.
What is your point, Counsel?
My point is this. Whatever Lord Clint Van Zeeks was writing in that unusually colored ink, it must have been directly before his death. Because he died before he had the opportunity to clean his hand.
What?
I remember something troubled me at the time. At the scene, the lid of my brother's inkwell was open. But Clint was pedunculous about such things. It seemed unusual, and no document pinned in the color ink that was in the inkwell was ever found.
So the document had disappeared. Are you suggesting the document my father had in his hand that night in his cell was...
Same document that Lord Clint Van Zeeks was writing moments before his death.
Then it was...
If Mr. Vigil's testimony is to be believed, it can only mean that, yes. Mr. Vigil?
Sir!
Whatever. When you spotted Mr. Asogi with the document in his cell, his precise words were as followed, were they not?
Alright then, but what's on that paper?
A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now.
A last will and testament? Yeah, the conversation a million ago, as Mr. Vigil says. What we know, it completely changes the meaning of what Mr. Asogi said.
You really think...
Mr. Vigil did indeed see the convict with a will, but it wasn't that of Genshin Asogi. It was the last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zeeks!
No.
What?
Objection!
Objection! This is madness! No, this is Ace Attorney! My brother's last will and testament? That would mean that he had chosen to die!
That is what it would mean, yes.
No, impossible! That's just utterly out of the question.
Lord Van Zeeks.
Clint was pursuing the professor, consumed him day and night. Whatever had happened, he would have never abandoned his investigation before its conclusion. Never. He wouldn't rest until his job was done, until the killer was caught. The idea he would willingly accept his own death, it's obscene.
Objection. And yet, we can be sure that he was writing his will moments before his death. And that Genshin Asogi came to be in possession of that document. So what could the will have possibly contained?
Clearly something that couldn't be made public under any circumstances whatsoever. Because armed with that document, my father was able to negotiate with the judiciary for his life. Something so damaging that it prompted the powers that be to enact a daring jailbreak plot. Yes, we no question the will contained information of the utmost secrecy. How to create British jam.
Information of the utmost secrecy. No, it couldn't be.
I've heard more than enough. Pursuing this notion of a phantom will nobody can attest to having seen serves absolutely no purpose. Objection, shut up. No, my lord. That's unacceptable. What did you say, counsel? Last will and testament of Genshin Asogi had in his possession was that of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. All the testimony evidence presented to the court has logically led us to that possibility. We have a duty to pursue that line of reasoning to its conclusion. But with no possible means of knowing the contents of that document, there's no line of reasoning to pursue.
A reason why Lord Clint Van Zeeks, a man of high noble standing, would have chosen death. Information so secret, the people in Judicary would be willing to negotiate a jailbreak for their condemned killer. The only explanation that fits those facts is an unthinkable truth that turns absolutely everything on its head. But it's just too hideous.
Mr. Naruhodo, however difficult the situation might become, you work with your client in pursuit of the truth. That's what you resolved to do when you entered the courtroom this morning, if I'm not mistaken. Are they gonna be like Clint was the professor and had a dog? And he was gonna confess that or something? Hold your head high and keep soldiering on. That or he knew Strongheart was the professor.
10 years ago, in his final moments, Lord Clint Van Zeeks left behind a will. Will that Genshin Sogi is able to use as a weapon to negotiate escape from prison. In all probability, the details of the will related to the professor case.
Defense's last statement is mere conjecture.
I don't really care. Moving on.
What are you getting at, man?
Ryunsuke. As soon as these words come out of my mouth, there's no going back. I believe the last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zeeks was, in fact,
I'm gonna go with confession. You don't really make an accusation out of your last will. You can do this, Mr. Naruhodo.
I believe that what Lord Clint Van Zeeks actually penned that day was a confession.
A confession?
Regarding the mass murderer known as the Professor. And his true identity.
Objection.
Objection, enough, Counsel. What are you saying? Do you even realize? A confession about the true identity of the Professor. That would mean...
Lord Van Zeeks, I appreciate this must be hard to take in.
Why do you appreciate that?
It's the only explanation that fits. The killer that terrorized London a decade ago and became known as the Professor, the man believed to have murdered 5 members of the aristocracy, wasn't Genshin Isogi at all.
No, you can't be suggesting.
It was in fact the man believed to have been the 5th victim. Lord Clint Van Zeeks himself.
Ah! Everyone's like, oh no, what is it? Finally open, is it? Pandora's box.
Ray Van Zeek's family, they've been thoroughbreds of British judiciary for years. Lord Clint Van Zeeks, he's actually a mass murderer? A perpetrator of atrocities of the greatest nature?
General public ever found out? My brother.
Oh, this is too awful. Poor Lord Van Zeeks. I bet he's probably regretting relying on us now. I wonder, though, did he never suspect?
Mr. Naruhodo.
Lord Barrick Von Zeeks is a brilliant prosecutor. Is it conceivable that he didn't realize what his older brother really was?
Order! Order in court!
Lord Van Zeeks. Professor made use of an enormous hound of his murder weapon. Tell me, did your brother own a dog?
Yes, he did. Balmung. He was a well-known hunting dog. People called him a giant. I don't believe this. When my brother would go hunting in the forest of the grounds behind the house, he always took Balmung. After Clint's death, the creature passed away too, almost as if he were following his master. He was a magnificent hunting dog, worthy of the jewel-studded collar around his neck,
A jewel-studded collar.
That's right. Though sadly, some years ago now it was stolen by a thief who broke into the house one night.
Jewel-studded collar stolen by a thief. It so happens that myself and my colleagues have come across such a collar during our time in London.
How could you?
There was an old emblem attached to the collar too, made of pure gold. It was topped with a small crown and bore an ornate capital letter B.
What? An emblem bearing the initial B?
Oh my, you know it?
B. For bark. It's the insignia of the Baskerville family.
The Baskerville? Why is that name coming up now?
Baskerville is the family name of my late brother's widow. That pure gold emblem was the heirloom which Clint acquired upon their marriage. There can be no doubt then, the collar you describe as Balmung's.
The family insignia of Lord Clint Van Zeek's widow. There's a considerable amount of blood on the collar when we saw it. So we know the dog was used for hunting. It could have been from his quarry, of course.
But it could equally have been from his human prey.
So is it true then? Clint Van Zeeks really was the professor?
Impossible! Japanese are making it all up to extradite their own.
So in fact, the person responsible for the murders of nobles and royals was a noble himself. That threatened to be an enormous scandal that would have really irrevocably destabilized British society.
My father knew that and was using to negotiate his way out of unjust charges brought against him. But at the very last hour, those he'd bargained with betrayed him, slaying him mercilessly on foreign soil.
Well, can you deny it, Lord Strongheart?
I could. 10 years have passed, and still now the 6 million inhabitants of our great capital rest easy believing that justice was done. That though his anonymity remains, the diabolical murderer was caught and executed. Very well then, you may have the truth. Tell me then, tell me what Clint really was. Lord Clint Van Zeeks was too pure of heart. When he became a prosecutor and went in pursuit of the black roots of crime, he drove himself into a corner. He came to the uncomfortable realization that to fight the most fiendish of criminals requires one to become even more fiendish oneself. Clint. The 19th century was a truly miraculous 100 years of Great Britain. Indeed the whole world. New industry, new technology, and with the birth of the Metropolitan Police Service, new law and order. Watch now on HBO. But these dazzling new developments meant ever deeper shadows that were cast on society. Water sullied by factories, air thick with noxious fumes and crime, growing daily to fill the darkness. Lord Clint Van Zeeks made this his mission to combat that darkness, but as time went on, slowly ate his soul, until eventually he was consumed. It's ironic, really, and somewhat surprising that the truth has once again been unearthed by a Japanese.
Once again? What do you mean?
10 years ago, your father, Genshin Asogi, turned up at my office one night. The professor? Yes, beyond all shadow of a doubt. Must issue a warrant to search his home at once. Don't be absurd. Man comes from one of our country's most illustrious families. He is a paragon of justice here in the capital. Yes, that's the point. That's why none of you British can see it. Using his noble status as a diversion whilst he commits these atrocious crimes behind the scenes. Do you have evidence? That's all that matters in this game. Nothing definitive as of yet, but he keeps an enormous savage hound on the estate. We need the full support of the judiciary for this. We're up against a member of the aristocracy. So will a large family estate as fierce guard dog. You should know that's commonplace here in Britain. I'm sorry, but I can't possibly put Scotland Yard into this based on tenacious accusation of a visiting student. I still don't believe Strongheart didn't do it, though. So I turned down Asogi's plea, and as a result, he took it upon himself to visit the Van Zeek's mansion on his own. You can only imagine now what happened between the two men. Though we know the outcome, of course. Lord Clint Van Zeek's perished. I don't believe this.
So in actual fact, Kazuma's father made the late Lord Van Zeeks meet the same fate? Put a permanent end to the professor's killings? By taking the drastic measure of ending the perpetrator's life?
As soon as I hurried to the mansion. When I arrived, it was easy to grasp what had happened.
And what about the will?
Sogi must have already taken it. Nothing of that nature was found at the scene. No idea of the existence of such a document at that time. Well, that's a lie. I was the only person who knew of the true identity of the professor, so I resolved to keep it a secret, and to guard the secret to the bitter end.
So you're admitting to it? That you were behind it all?
It was you, then, who pinned the crimes of my father. I did what needed to be done in order to protect the law and order of the British Empire, even if that meant employing an unforgivable ruse.
Then it was you who arranged this fabricated evidence.
I ordered that detective to take care of it, whilst keeping the truth from him, naturally. Gregson. Obviously, he opposed me at first.
Are you off your rocker? We can't do something like that.
No question that it was Sogi who murdered the Lord Van Zeeks. Our staff made statements that they saw the man running from the mansion that night.
Yeah, well, I no doubt it was that Japanese fella. Still, we haven't got a shred of conclusion evidence against the man. Worse than that, he doesn't keep a dog. They were short of a murder weapon to boot.
And we're short on time, Gregson. Must put a stop to this man's rampage, for the good of the country. I will use whatever means necessary. Do I make myself clear, detective?
Blimey.
Did Strongheart own a dog, though? So that night 10 years ago, when I was attacked by those thugs in the back streets, and Ginchen's ring was taken, that was him, was it? That was Gregson and some hired help? Detective handed in the stolen ring to Dr. Wilson, who feigned discovering the victim's stomach during that autopsy.
And in the light of the decisive evidence, Mr. Asogi is found guilty of the charges brought against him. However, behind the scenes, he had actually already struck a deal with his accursers, in which he agreed to silently accept the charges.
But I just don't believe that part. As far as I knew, the man my father despised such underhanded dealings. It was extremely easy to make him comply. You see, he had one crippling weakness.
What weakness?
Isn't it obvious? You, Kazuma Asogi. You know, the small child that was across the sea. Me. Perhaps you have no desire to return to your homeland, Asogi.
What?
Though I hear you have a 14-year-old son. That math checks out. Agree to cooperate and accept your guilt without contention, and you will see Japan and your son again.
You scoundrel.
Whether you choose wisely or not, it will be a closed trial by order of Her Majesty. Whatever rash claims you might make in court will have no trouble stifling them. Only one outcome for you, Asogi. The gallows. Don't forget that I still have a weapon at my disposal. Document revealing a truth that I know you're desperate to keep hidden. Yes, it hadn't escaped my mind, which is the only reason I'm willing to bargain with you. I only want to protect this country's law and order. You understand? So what's it to be, Asogi? Kazuma. His great weakness was a bunch of birds, which now work for me. He did it for me. As I told him at that time, my motive was simply to protect Britain from the damage to the truth would do. To protect this country's law and order at any cost. Now on HBO. I don't actually know if that show's on HBO. Objection, no. I've never dared to let myself even consider this possibility until now. But in the light of all this treachery, I have to ask. The mastermind behind the Reaper of the Bailey. Was it you, Lord Mayor Strongheart? A rather brilliant idea, wouldn't you say, Lord Barrack von Zeeks? The spirit of your late brother, that paragon of justice, should return to reap justice for his sibling. Could there be a more appetizing tale for London's masses, I ask you? What brazen... I knew that you'd play the part to perfection, but your role really wasn't that of some embodiment of death. No, you were London's guardian angel. An angel with bloody hands? I think not. Those who cooperated with me were only too happy to participate in my plan. Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson. My minions worked tirelessly. A good guy never calls someone his minion. My minions worked tirelessly to ensure that the finger of guilt could never come to rest on you. It's all thanks to them you were exalted as the demigod of the Reaper became. But Dr. Wilson left Britain 4 years ago, when he was invited to work in Japan. That's right. I had to employ service of his young prodigy after that. Dr. Courtney Scythe.
Dr. Scythe?
So what with the execution of the Professor and the subsequent reign of the Reaper of the Bailey, I successfully safeguarded law and order in our mighty capital for the past decade. That is everything. Is it everything? My lord, ladies, and gentlemen, I do hereby confess it was I who stirred the contempt of the Reaper, concept of the Reaper. However, let me say in my defense, it was all for the preservation of law and order across the entire empire. You can't break the law to make the law.
Strongheart did it? Unforgivable collection of crimes, but still... All those died at the Reaper's hand were rotten to the core anyway,
Except, Gregson. The only aid to keeping London safe. No one left now who can reveal the precise truth of what happened 10 years ago. Therefore, the trial can go no further. Now, I would like to entreat all those present. Beyond these 4 walls, nobody need know the truth. Even Her Majesty must be protected from this. No, that's illegal. Trust you all appreciate the importance of my request. It is, of course, for the good of the country.
Can he do this? Try it really in now?
Hold it. I have one last question for the accused, Lord Van Zeeks. What? Of course, I know that you're a highly accomplished prosecutor, so I find it hard to believe that you didn't have any doubts at all. That you never suspected your older brother.
Yeah, the same thought occurred to me.
It was only once, but yes. I couldn't say that I never had my doubts. My brother's sense of justice was extremely strong, perhaps too strong, I observed. At that time, there were members of the aristocracy who were bleeding the country dry for their own gain. Since they were nobles, they were untouchable. For my brother, it was the source of great turmoil. And coincidentally, at the same time, the Professor began his terrifying reign. During the time of the Professor killings, my brother did not appear to be himself.
And that made you suspect?
Yes. But it was only once, not more.
Only once, really?
Clint wasn't the culprit. That was my conclusion at the time, and I still believe that now.
Do you have any evidence to support that idea?
The third victim was Lord Chief Justice at the time. It was he who recognized my brother's potential and trained him as a prosecutor. No matter what circumstances, it's unthinkable my brother could have killed his friend and mentor.
But someone who would like to get that job really would benefit from it. That will do. Neither Clint Van Zieks nor Genshin Sogi still walk this earth. However much we debate this matter now, we cannot hope to reach a conclusion. There are only two excellent pieces of evidence from the time. The woe-begone ring that acted as incriminating evidence to condemn Genshin Asogi, and the 3-page last will and testament penned in black ink left by the man. 3, wasn't it 2? Read the wretched truth of what exactly I have explained. Wait, yeah, it wasn't... He just did a slip-up. Wretched truth of what has happened exactly as I explained. Later today, I'll present myself at the Ministry of Justice for whatever sanction is deemed appropriate, which I rule so nothing will happen. That is all. Court is adjourned.
Objection!
Objection! Good. Glad someone caught it. Thank you, Kazuma. Me? What did I do? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have made it this 11th hour discovery. What discovery? Also, man, has it been 11 hours? Jeez. How long have we been here? My lord, I'm afraid I must insist the trial continues. I beg your pardon. As the court has been reminded today already, we must stop at nothing to cover the whole truth. And to that end, one particular statement made by somebody in this courtroom moments ago revealed a very subtle contradiction. What contradiction? But all I did was ask the accused one simple question. Well, it began with Lord Van Ziek's recollection about his brother. Lord Strongheart didn't permit the defendant to speak at length. I merely point out we can draw no further useful conclusions here. Where on earth is this contradiction? One of them definitely just said something contradictory. Time to identify who. It was Lord Strongheart. It was Lord Strongheart, I'm sure of it. Something he said was slightly off. Come on, Ryusuke, think back to his words. Find the problem. I heard he... Ah, it was clearly that they still don't walk this earth. They're in the ground. They clearly are walking on dirt. Extra pieces of evidence from the time. The woe-begone ring that acted as incriminating evidence to condemn Genshin Asogi, and the 3-page last will and testament penned in black ink and left by the man. Lord Strongheart, would you care to explain? Explain what, counsel? Among the statements you made just a few moments ago, something you said was inconsistent with a certain piece of evidence we have. Inconsistent? And whilst an inconsistency remains, defense has a right to pursue an explanation. Ryusuke, what? Let me warn you about the statements you are making, counsel. They may very well prove fatal. Name your words contain a contradiction. What piece of evidence, I ask you?
Take that!
This here is the will left behind by Mr. Asogi. The 2-paged will. What? Yet moments ago, your precise words were... the 3-page last will and testament. Could it be that originally there was a 3rd page? For a moment I thought perhaps you identified something worthwhile, but it's a mere trifle, I see. A trifle? Governor Caden! What can I do for you, sir? You were present when the Japanese man penned his last will and testament. I was there for sure. Remember his black, wear him like scrolls to this day. And, quite certain, my lord, there was a 3rd page at the time.
What? Only the first 2 pages were the actual will, though. If I mind correctly, the third was a message to his lad back in Japan. For legal purposes, we quite only his will. And we wouldn't have wanted any uncomfortable words about Britain to get back in Japan, eh? That's still illegal. That 3rd page ought to not be sent.
Objection.
Objection? How dare you make that decision? I had a right to know what was said, to hear my father's final words to me. Gold Room is no place for sentimentality, Counsel. As it happens, I have the 3rd page of the document with me right here now. Here you go. My father's message. Be given to you at the end of these proceedings. It'll be too late once the trial's over. You need to know what it says now. Even the slightest thing might give us a vital clue. My lord, the defense calls for Genshin Soi's last words to his son to be read out loud for the court now. Your request is denied. The inevitably maudlin words can be of no consequence now.
Objection.
Objection. You have no idea. Prosecutor agrees the court should know the contents of that message. Every possible piece of evidence must be thoroughly examined.
Very well then, Governor Caden. You'll read the 3rd page of the document for all to hear.
Yes, sir. Only, I should point out, my lord, I can't read it. I can't read the rear language.
Beautiful language. Oh, it's this guy. I was like, who's talking?
I can be of assistance here. Be happy to translate the words in English for the court.
Father? You're still here, are you, Dr. Mikotoba?
Naturally, consider myself a member of the judiciary, albeit a lowly one. But perhaps I should quietly withdraw after I translate Genshin's message.
Your cooperation is much appreciated, I think.
Kazuma, the truth is shrouded in darkness. Darkness only our clan's great sword can pierce. Mighty Kuruma, twist the head and watch them fall. All thy mortal foes.
I knew it. It was in the sword.
That's the end of the message, it would seem.
A haiku poem? Twist thy head. Father, what is this Kuruma? The name of the Yasugi clan's famous sword. Razor-sharp blade known to all? Well, it was sharper before I broke it. Passed down generations, embodies our people. Not known to me.
It's the katana sword that was submitted as evidence early in the proceedings. The one worn by the prosecution counsel when he confronted Inspector Gregson.
All these procrastinations are beginning to try my patience. Adjournment of this court is long overdue. As the presiding judge, I've been accompanying as possible the will of the courtroom. However, despite all of that, no new information has come to light.
Mighty Kuruma, twist thy head and watch them fall, all thy mortal foes. Proper way to use the sword, is it? Maybe I should try it. Hurts my neck, that's the trouble.
Mr. Naruto, if I might make a suggestion. Think perhaps it doesn't mean your head. Why was he twisting his head? Bailiff, could you stop the defense from snapping his own neck?
Must tell you the history and development of the katana some time ago. I'm sure you're probably aware. The sword's head is the part at the very end of the hilt.
Uh-huh.
It's written as head in Japanese, but it's pronounced as Kashira, I believe. Kashira! My favorite singer. Mr. Asogi's words really meant twist the butt of the hilt? You don't think... Look what's inside it!
Excuse me.
Is that a tightly wound sheet of parchment?
There it is.
Scarlet ink! It's written in scarlet ink! I penned this, my last will and testament, in the final months before my inevitable and willing death. This is it, isn't it? Naruto, look at the signature at the end. Clint Van Zeek's. And the date, 10 years ago, on that fateful night. But for 10 years, it's been silently concealed inside Kuruma and no one knew. The last will and testament of Clint Van Zeek's. Wait, oh my goodness. Look at this. This is unbelievable. What does it say?
I guess I have to actually read it, huh? No, I can't even read it. What? I can't actually read it? Okay. In pursuit of justice, Lord Clint Van Zeeks tragically lost sense of morality. When he murdered his former mentor, clearly he was already devoid of his normal facilities. How dare you! I refuse to believe that of my brother. Too much time has passed, we cannot ever hope to know more than we do now. Especially since the alleged will that pinned in his mind moments appears to have been lost forever.
Lord Strongheart, you appear to be in something of a hurry to wrap things up. I wonder why. We've heard you state time and time again during the proceedings that everything you did was in interest of the protecting British law and order.
And I stand by that. Without the Reaper, we could never have achieved the reduction in crime the capital has seen.
Objection, you could have not accepted bribes. What about Inspector Gregson then?
And Dr. Wilson. They were no criminals. You used them to achieve your ends, and then you had them killed.
However you dress it up, there was nothing fair and just about that.
Lord Strongheart, what exactly is that you're hiding?
Dr. Mikotoba, were you not to quietly withdraw after the translation of your former associate's will? In this courtroom, no argument carries weight unless it is supported by evidence. And it would seem that the defense has no more evidence to present.
I do, actually.
While you were yammering to yourself. In which case, I hereby order all discourse from the proceedings to be struck from the record.
This is my last chance.
Mr. Naruhodo,
I have to present some decisive evidence now, or it's all over. But can I?
Yeah, of course. Why don't they even give me the option? I've never used the wait option.
As it happens, defense does has evidence to present.
What? Don't be absurd. Nothing of relevance remaining from the time. Objection. It's high time that you realize something, my lord. This gentleman has an uncanny habit of producing evidence at the final hour that had escaped everyone else's attention, such as when he fiddles with a sword and we just kind of let him do that, or that time he opened the camera and it flashed and everyone was like, what was that? And then we kept talking. Or that one time when he set off firecrackers in the middle of the courtroom and we didn't notice.
Nonsense!
What is it, Ryusuke? What do you have?
I dare say, the final, decisive piece of evidence will reveal the whole truth about this rotten tale.
How can you... Decisive?
Well, it appears there's no escaping it now, my lord.
Let it be so, then. Present whatever you think you have. You can settle this decade-old enigma, if you're capable. What exactly is this evidence that defense claims to be so decisive?
Here you go. I got these photographs. Get ready to laugh. Single piece of evidence to clarify what really happened 10 years ago.
The last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. Ha! A wonderful astute observation, I'm sure. But in the case it escaped your notice, that document was lost long ago.
That's right, it was. Only, I have it right here. Discovered just a moment ago.
What? Impossible! That can't be!
Everything that's happened comes back to this will. This document. Key that will unlock the entire mystery.
Oh, he actually got stressed out for once. How did none of them notice that he tried to break his own neck for a second? My brother's last will and testament, where did you find that? Oh, I just have this, apparently.
It was rolled up inside this.
Inside Karuma?
That ultimate weapon Genshin and Sogi obtained has lain undisturbed in the hilt of the sword all these years, just waiting for the right time to emerge and reveal the truth.
Signature and seal certainly look official.
My god, it's true. It's my brother's handwriting. There can be no mistake. I forbid the contents of that document from being read out. Do you hear me? I strictly forbid it.
Object it. I don't care. You can't do that, my lord. Document could explain everything.
Document could literally destroy the meaning of justice in this country.
I demand you hand it to me, at once. Why? What are you trying to hide? Could it be you already know what's written on this page?
What are you implying? Court adjourned with immediate effect. Clear the courtroom. Objection. Afraid. Do that, my lord, and you'll suffer a fatal blow as Lord Chief Justice. I beg your pardon. Forcibly ending a trial without good reason, and not any trial, a closed trial by order of Her Majesty the Queen. To defy the monarch's will is treason.
Lord Clint Van Zeeks really did pin a will that day.
Like as the young Japanese man said. Read it out, now, testify, testify.
Well, well, my lord. It rather appears though proceedings aren't going quite as you'd hoped.
You fools. Go ahead, Ryunosuke, read it. The prosecution gives it full support.
Yeah, okay. Very well then.
No, for God's sake. No. Ahem. I pin this, my last will and testament, in the final moments before my inevitable and willing death. The hour is 11 p.m. and I sit at my writing desk in my office. My good friend Asogi stands at my shoulder. He has expressed his intent to invoke the dying ritual of the duel, that I may depart this world with honor. An honor of which I am utterly undeserving. The Japanese are truly a merciful people. I, Clint Van Zeeks, Lord of the Manor of Van Zeeks Estate, hereby confess to the following. I am the killer who has come to know in society as the Professor, guilty of all 4 counts of murder. I will not here discourse the corruption rightful among the aristocracy, which is to me, as one of them, so apparent. However, 6 months ago, I took the life of a member of the House of Lords at the heart of the depravity, a demon who's habitually sacrificed the common man to further his own interests, abusing his position of power. The law is impotent against such vile avarice. Only a fellow demon can rid society of this menace. That demon was my quarry, upon whom I willingly set upon my great hound. But though I'm a hunter of some experience, I'm a poor felon, it seems. My guilt was at once recognized by another, and I became subject to his extortion. He held over me the threat of exposing my wicked crime to my beloved wife and brother. Under that threat, I have done this man's bidding for months now, killing those he demanded I kill. As I watched my former mentor perish before my eyes in the jaws of the hound I commanded, I realized that I had lost the last shred of decency within me, and sunk to the level of a wild beast. There is no path back to the light. Be it I or my dear friend Asogi who dies this night, I am eternally lost in darkness. To my extortioner, Male Strongheart, may you feel the jaws of the beast at your throat every time you swallow.
So now we know, yes, Clint Van Zeeks was a murderer. But somebody was directing him and naming his victims. His extortioner, Lord Male Strongheart. It was you!
Lord Strongheart, a moment ago, you claimed that what the court has just heard could destroy justice in this country.
Well, you weren't trying to protect justice at all. All you were trying to do was conceal the secret of your true nature and the countless lives you sacrificed up until now.
I mean, he already admitted to being the Reaper, but sure, whatever. It just didn't make sense to me that the third victim, the former Lord Chief Justice, was my brother's benefactor and a man of lofty principles. As I said, Clint had no possible reason to kill the man. But you did, didn't you, Lord Strongheart? To eliminate the man who stood between you and the office you set your sights on. You used your own hunting dog, Lord Clint Van Zeeks, to take him down. It had to be done. London's unsavory shadows are deep, and the arm of the law fails to reach their depths. Crime must be cut off at the roots. But the Lord Chief Justice at the time just couldn't see that. He was weak. Lofty principles, you say? Tantamount to cowardice, if you ask me. That's why I took his place, in order to fight the crime he was allowing to spread like wildfire. By murdering the man? The Reaper, the Professor, the name makes no difference. As I've explained countless times already, it was all done to further the law and order in London.
You're going to legitimize murder for my father now, too?
Ha, Genshin Asogi. Well, that was unfortunate. I had fully intended to send him back to Japan, as we'd agreed.
I don't believe you. It was you, wasn't it? You killed him.
No, it wasn't me who took your father's life.
Then who?
On the night following his mock execution, I went to Lurgate Cemetery at 3 in the morning with Jigoku.
Judge Shigoku?
There to be a collaborator in Japanese side to manage Asogi's treatment after his reparation. Jigoku had a fierce ambition, made him easy to manipulate. 10 years ago, after he stood trial for the destruction of the witness stand, I had words with him. When I told him the position of the Minister of Foreign Affairs could be his, he couldn't agree fast enough.
Shiro, you fool.
As you know, Asogi escaped prison in a closed casket and was subsequently interred. We intended to dig him out of his grave before he ran out of air. But sadly, all did not go to plan. An unexpected visitor to the cemetery with his own ideas about digging up graves, a man who witnessed what nobody was supposed to see.
Enoch Streber.
Of course, I knew grave robbers frequented London cemeteries. But that grave on that particular night...
Blast, people find out the convict wasn't really executed. Scandal will rock the very foundation of the Empire.
Then what do we do?
Shoot him, Mr. Jigoku. Shoot Asogi at once. Can't live now this has happened. He has to go. What are you talking about?
You had an agreement. Promised he could return to Japan.
Everything has changed now. The truth got out because of this. Both of us would be finished. Forever. Come on, Jigoku. Do it. Pull the trigger. Shoot!
Well then.
Jigoku shot Asogi from the shadows. The grave robber was so close, the blood sprayed over his coat.
Fled as fast as his legs would carry him. Then Jigoku and I put Asogi's body back in the grave from which he'd just emerged. When I later learned of the waxwork model's presence in the scene as well, I made her swear to two things. Never to remove the professor's mask, and never to speak of the events that night. No, it's definitely not. And with that, the secret is buried alongside Asogi's corpse. So, now you know what really happened in Lowgate Cemetery that night. It was Jigoku, your Japanese acquaintance, who killed Mr. Asogi in the end, you see. Claimed to be the man's friend, but when push came to shove, he pulled the trigger.
Here's where Mr. Jigoku left the courtroom earlier. He said that the assassin exchange proposal was a demand from his British counterpart, not a request.
So you coerced him too, using what happened in the graveyard? By that time, Jigoku was the Minister of Foreign Affairs negotiating international treaties with Britain. You can imagine what that would have happened if it came to light he'd murdered a compatriot 10 years earlier. He would have lost everything. I merely reminded him of that.
How do you sleep at night?
That's Mimikyu's question. Past 10 years, I've fought tirelessly with the darker recesses of London's criminal underworld. And I've used whatever means necessary to ensure that justice prevails and law and order reigns supreme.
Objection.
That could be further from the truth. Fact is, you haven't fought crime at all. How dare you?
I saved Clint Van Zeeks from dishonor with his death.
Objection.
Whilst behind the scenes, you systematically buried anyone who stood in your way. And then, you made my father take the blame. It's unavoidable. It's the only way to protect our justice system and public order. Let's not forget the others you had killed as well. Setting the defendant up as the Reaper to cover up the truth behind the murders of countless more. That's enough! You have any idea what conniving that led to the acquittals of those wretched criminals? Oh, there, his staff disappeared, but we had to fight fire with fire. Our courts can't function without a Reaper. Can't you see all I've done for this country? This has been my struggle. You've done nothing. Lord Van Zeeks here worked tirelessly and justly in court while enduring the disgrace of the Reaper name. And Inspector Gregson, fraught with anguish over having sullied his hands through desire to do the right thing. Not to mention Ginter and Asogi, who risked his life going to pursue the truth you tried to hide. No, the darker recesses of London's underworld were largely filled by you. You little. When will you get it through your thick skulls? It's all for the Queen and country. I'm tiring of that excuse. You've consistently twisted the truth for bargaining power to make others do your bidding, nothing more. People who willingly twist the truth to coerce others have no right to call themselves part of the judiciary. Strongly suggest you don't ever talk of justice again. Just ice. Guilty! You're just roaring in the distance. Oh, now what? Clap, clap. Well, 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 dear me, my good fellows, dear me. Well-deserved round of applause, I think, for quite a marvelous performance. What are you talking about? Stop clapping! That sounds painful. Those are lively, grave expressions, the beautifully pronounced Queen's English. Really, our friends from Far East are quite a picture of industriousness. Why is he clapping so much? You fraud, keep your mockery. Please don't misunderstand. Really is exactly as you've both said. What are you trying to say? I've occupied the darker recesses of London's underworld and, how do you put it, done nothing? I confess it's a little embarrassing to have to point it out quite so starkly, but yes, I really have done nothing. Which means I can be indicated for nothing. No. No, you just admitted that you coerce people to doing it, and that is not legal. What? It's true. Personally, I've committed no crime. I've merely been surrounded by fools who've acted very rashly indeed. You can't get away with that. You consistently preyed on people's weaknesses. And what? Threatened them? Are you sure it wasn't just bargaining? I would like to address all the good lords, ladies and gentlemen of the judiciary here present. You all know of these darker recesses in our great capital, and deep down I believe you also know that I have each and every one of you in my pockets. That to fight for those who dwell there requires at least some of us to occupy the darkness ourselves. So let me appeal to your good sense now. Check under your chairs. There's a gun. Consider the situation with me. If this catalog of horrifying revelations were to become common knowledge among the 6 million inhabitants of London, what might happen? To learn the infamous murderer of royals and nobles was a respected member of the aristocracy himself. That evidence was fabricated in the scapegoat's trial amid the secret negotiations with the prosecutors to effect a jailbreak. That the Reaper of the Bailey was an organized group of assassins managed by Scotland Yard Inspector. And finally, that it was all masterminded by the Lord Chief Justice himself. General public Britain knew the truth. All faith in the police and prosecutor's office would be completely lost, without a doubt. Public order in the capitals would completely break down. We'd be cast back to the lawless days of the last century. Well, sometimes you gotta crack the egg open to make a good omelet. Precisely, as it was 100 years ago when 1 in 10 of the population were criminals. Now just 1 in 10 of the aristocracy are criminals. Think of what we've accomplished since then. A public policing force, comprehensive set of laws. And if we want to continue to protect this new era of law and order, now on HBO, I'll say it again, we must at times occupy the darkness ourselves. Successfully identifying and apprehending the man responsible for taking Inspector Gregson's life, that's all that was expected of this trial. All these other matters have been discussed, will be eliminated from the minutes of proceedings, in interest of preserving law and order. And to protect Her Majesty the Queen, of course. Well, my lords and ladies and gentlemen, what say you? You can't not tell the Queen.
Yeah, there's a point.
Things Lord Strong has done are quite unforgivable. But on the other hand, is it our duty to maintain law and order in the capital? Can't deny the threat of the Reaper over the years has done wonders for the crime rate. And by fair means or foul, that's all thanks to Lord Strongheart. Strongheart.
Are you hearing this?
Will the British judiciary, rather. For your rousing response, friends, I express my heartfelt gratitude. Therefore, in accordance with the overwhelming wishes of the court, the record shall be erased.
You have to respect the man's ability to turn a situation to his favor.
Lord Strongheart really is a master of manipulation. Conclusively proven his guilt, yet still he managed to evade justice. I just don't know what we can do. Ryutsuke.
Looks like the trial really is going to come to an end now. I'm almost out of options, I think. Really only one path left open to me.
Let's never wait and see. That's stupid. One slap silenced the room.
Yes, as I know only too well, the only thing that carries any weight in court is evidence.
But Mr. Naruhodo, what evidence is there to use at this stage in the trial?
I have an idea. I don't know when anything will come of it, but if there was ever a time for using this particular item we have amongst the evidence, it's now. Look at me, I've got a red hair, so clearly this whole thing was just a red herring.
I do have a gun. I could just shoot the man. But no. I think it's time for a certain detective to show up. He did say to use this at the end.
Take that!
Oh my. Mr. Sholmes asked if you had that with you earlier. Hey, they got away with it. I was protecting law and order. If he got away with it, so could I.
I'll expose Lord Strongheart's wrongdoing now. No doubt that Mr. Sholmes already deduced exactly how the truth will unfurl.
Yep, just put this whole trial on TV. On HBO.
Think it must be time for a great detective to take a center stage, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. Take the hair by the ears then, and heave ho!
Alright, here goes.
My dear fellow, must I remind you every time? A gentle tug will suffice.
Mr. Sholmes.
Looking quite in the wrong direction, Mr. Naruto, because I'm over here. Mr. Naruto, he's... What? A hologram? What? Why is he a hologram? It's Mr. Sholmes.
I wasn't expecting you back, Sholmes.
Delighted to be here again. Lord Strongheart. Why is he a hologram? I don't understand. What? What is the meaning of this? Bailiff, seize him. Put that man in irons. This is a closed court. You've been warned once already, man. What the? We can't get a hold of him, my lord. It's the first time we've ever tried to do anything and we can't do it. They're trying their best, at least. Well, we wanted the bailiffs to do something. I guess this is why he's a hologram. We just go right through him. I'm afraid your efforts are wasted. You see... Why is he dancing? What is this dance that he's doing? The great detective you see before you was composed entirely of light and shadow, an image, if you will. Mr. Naruto, I must congratulate you on your fine deductions.
Mr. Sholmes, what on earth is...
Are you familiar, I wonder, with the invention known as the telephone?
Well, yeah, I hear that some public telephones have been installed recently in Tokyo.
It's how the speaker voice is converted to an electrical signal transmitted instantly to another place. What does that have to do with you standing here? Quite. Sounds are transmitted, so could not images keep them company, I mused. Iris and I did some modest experimentation to develop such a device specifically for this day. Modest experimentation, Mr. Sholmes? What a modest description. How many years does it take for the TV to be developed at this point? And somewhat incidentally, I thought we might as well transmit an entire scene.
Someone incidentally, Mr. Sholmes? Now you're just being immodest.
Do you mean to say you're not actually here, Sholmes?
Ha, I knew my trusty partner would have no trouble grasping the concept.
Except he's grasping the stand to steady himself after your shock arrival.
Poor father. I would have hoped he had been forewarned, being the great detective's great partner.
Leave my courtroom at once. Get out or I swear to you.
Dear me, you on the other hand, Lord Strong, appear to have a very poor grasp of the situation. Allow me to reiterate, I am not here. Which would, I hope, lead naturally to one asking, where exactly are you? The very question I was awaiting. I am at present enjoying the air in a rather splendid garden.
A garden?
Not just any garden, you understand? A garden at Buckingham Palace.
What? You can't be. Buckingham Palace?
That's Buckingham Palace, Mr. Sato? Never heard of it.
You ever read the news, Mr. Naruto?
Mr. Sholmes? Is Iris with you there?
Ah, well now. Iris is currently enjoying some tea. 1 second. I had a phone call. I was currently enjoying some tea with Her Majesty.
Her Majesty?
Not just any Her Majesty, you understand? Her Majesty, the Queen of British Empire.
What? What?
What on earth is all this about?
Buckingham Palace is Her Majesty the Queen's residence in London, Mr. Naruto.
Order in the court. I demand immediately silence. Her Majesty the Queen? You can't be. I mean, no. This is some sort of unforgivable, distasteful trickery by a third-rate detective, that's all.
Unforgivably distasteful trickery? What an apt description. A closed court session attended by elite members of the judiciary is a rare event. I presume Her Majesty would be more than a little curious about the proceedings. So I decided to show her. Everything. From start to finish.
Huh? You showed her?
Indeed. By dint of Herlock Sholm's remote seismograph. You meddling. This is some kind of nightmare. Just as I appear to be standing before you, regaling you with the tale of my latest invention. No doubt you've inferred that the reverse is also true. You don't mean... Her Majesty has seen... Where did the other two go? Were they also images? Her Majesty has seen and heard every moment of these proceedings. I assume there'd be no objection, after all. Every trial in this country is conducted under the auspices of Her Majesty's, as you know. You... I confess I'm quite impatient to hear Her Majesty's opinion about the unforgivable, distasteful trickery in which you've been engaged over the past 10 years. No, I was merely...
Oh, sorry to keep y'all waiting. Vicky and I had so much to talk about.
Queen Victoria, I suppose. Icky Vicky, the Queen.
Iris, there you are. I have a little message here from Her Majesty.
Oh, I was kind of hoping we'd see her. Well, that is definitely some royal paper. It's got tiny crowns. A message? I'll then read it out loud. If anyone's sitting comfortably,
We don't actually have chairs.
forthwith and with immediate effect, all authority previously afforded to male Strongheart is hereby revoked forevermore. Furthermore, he'll be prosecuted for his crimes against his country in a public trial by jury in the coming days. So, it seems that Her Majesty doesn't believe we need to fight fire with fire. Justice in this country needn't be administered from the shadows at all.
Male Strongheart, darkness you fostered to conceal your despicable actions these last 10 years is a thing of the past now. After today, your brand of law and order has no future, because no longer are you the Lord Chief Justice. In the eyes of the law and Her Majesty the Queen, you are nothing but a criminal.
Why are they all fizzly? Is he gonna scream once more? Adjourned! 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 Oh no, all the fire! Oh no, the scales! Is it gonna stab him? I guess this is why they didn't fix the scales. Why does he get such a medal? And the courthouse is on fire now. I knew the fireworks were a fire hazard, but not the actual scales. Oh, he's covered in smoke now. How did we put out the fire? Did we use more fire? Lord Clint Van Zieg's left a will in which he confessed everything. When those words came out of Asogi's mouth, it deranged me completely. Knew I must do anything and everything in my power to contain the situation. I know, and that was not intentional. I just left the devil thing there because why not? Couldn't find the Dawn document. Searched his cell, but it wasn't there. Which participated by the jailbreak plot, I presume? Well, what do you mean? Need to obtain that will was all-consuming. Sure, if I facilitated Asogi's escape, he would emerge with the will somewhere on his person. But despite searching his limp body in the cemetery that night, it still eluded me. Never even crossed my mind that it was concealed in his sword's hilt. We've upped the scales, apparently. What pains me now is that my brothers left this world without a word to me. I'm sorry, Lord Van Zeeks. In point of fact, I think perhaps this isn't the case. Sorry? How could that be? There is more to his last will and testament. Why didn't you read that earlier? It wasn't important. As I confront the prospect of my demise, I feel bitter regret for my younger brother. Burke, you've always looked up to me, and now you follow in my footsteps to become a prosecutor. My fervent wish that my unspeakable deeds should not hinder your advancement. I ask not for understanding, for none could understand my depravity. I ask only for forgiveness. Asogi is a fine detective and a hunter worthy of respect. He's agreed to honor my final 2 wishes. The first is that the document survives. The second, I cannot commit to paper. I have confessed my sins to my wife. May she find resolution in my death. My eternal gratitude to my Japanese friend, I rest my quill. Clint Van Zeeks. Clint. You know, but notice they have yet to show the... Okay, there we go. Who put out the fire? Male Strongheart, collude with the Shira Jigoku in a criminal plot so immense it spanned the oceans. Cold-heartedly murdered all those who knew the truth about what happened 10 years ago. Why'd you set about that now, a whole decade later? To ascend to the very peak. These last 10 years made me realize being the Lord Chief Justice wasn't enough. Short of becoming Her Majesty's Attorney General, I could have no real power to affect the changes needed in this country. And for that promotion, I needed to ensure no remnants of the past remained. How could you? I like everything to run smoothly, in the exact same manner that I prescribe, like a well-oiled machine. And I was just a step away. And for your ambition to succeed, did you even bother to count the number of brilliant people you had killed? Ah, Mr. Reaper, are you not forgetting something? Such as? You very much adopted your usual prospector-like demeanor in the proceedings now. But the reality of the situation is that you are the defendant in this trial. Ah. However, presiding judge would appear to have fallen from the bench, as it were. Oh no. Oh, I thought he was gonna take the bench. But no, it's our good friend, the original judge. May I suggest, therefore, we entrust the final education to an old friend? My lord! As a member of the judiciary, I've been following the proceedings from gallery. And I must say, I shan't ever forget the extraordinary battle between good and evil that I witnessed here today. Darkness has blighted justice in our land these past 10 years has at last been dispelled. Thanks to no small part to the efforts of a bright young star from the east. Defense Counsel Naruhodo?
Yeah, my lord?
On behalf of everyone here present at the Old Bailey, I give you my heartfelt thanks.
You're too kind, my lord. Hopefully I'll get paid this time.
First time I faced you in court just under a year ago now, I had the faintest of intimidations. That a British judge is so warped and twisted over its long history was finally to no change. This might just be the man to do it.
What?
But at the time, I wouldn't allow myself to acknowledge the possibility. I couldn't overcome my hatred of the Japanese, after the circumstances of my brother's death. Mr. Naruhodo, allow me to apologize for countless discourtesies on my part. You are a laureate of boundless talent. Do I get a hollow chalice? Will this end like with Godo and I get a chalice to sip out of? Oh, Lord Van Zeeks,
When I first arrived in Great Britain, I was literally a nobody. Certainly not a lawyer. Truth is, my fortune's entirely been made by the miraculous people I've met. My best friend, Kazuma Asogi, who led me here to Britain in the first place. My loyal and ever-patient judicial assistant, Mr. Sato, who helped me study to become a lawyer and flipped me countless times. The brilliant Lord Van Zeeks, who never failed to challenge his Nipponese rival. And not to mention, the exceptional master of logic and reasoning who showed me the true art of deduction, Mr. Sholmes.
Da! Where did you come from? Saving the best for last, Mr. Naruto. What a relief.
I'm well aware that without all these people's help and support, I wouldn't be where I am today. Truth is a guiding light that always leads to happiness. I've lived by that principle for a long time now, but actually, it's not true. Truth can also cause great pain, sometimes even leaving people on the brink of despair.
And for that reason, there are those who feel the need to hide the truth, who do it instinctively even. Well, a speed run? It took forever.
As soon as we allow our eyes to set on something other than the truth, the darkness takes hold. And then we turn to heartless and nobodies or something? It's weird. From there it grows until eventually it makes us blind to the guiding light of the truth altogether. That's why it's my belief that we must all resolve to never avert our eyes from what is just and true. And continue to walk the straight and narrow path ahead, much like how my face became straight and narrow when I slapped myself. Well said, I guess.
Well, I must excuse myself now. But before I go, Mr. Naruto, let me compliment you on your grand opus.
What?
Without your beautifully composed case against Lord Strongheart, Her Majesty would have been unable to act. Thanks to you and your fellows, the haunting undertones of corrupting Britain's justice system have been silenced.
Thank you very much, I think. Do I get paid for this?
Of course not, my dear fellow, but Vicky says that she'll compliment you with a glass of tea. So until our paths cross again somewhere.
Well then, we hear that this long trial's finally come to an end.
My apologies for any anxiety caused, my lord.
I'm quite sure we shall meet again here in the courtroom before long, Prosecutor Barak von Zeeks. In conclusion of these proceedings, I hereby declare the defendant, Barak von Zeeks, not guilty. Now will someone fix those scales? That is all. Court is adjourned.
Do I get to keep the unicorn staff as a memento? Yeah, we had 4 mistakes. Although one of them, no, 2 of them were dumb. One of them is I didn't check the books in Natsume's room or something before pointing them out. And the other one I think was I pointed to under the kinesis machine or something. I don't remember what the other 2 were.
Really is all over. Did I sacrifice too much?
Mr. Naruto, let me flip you through the air for old time's sake. Really must congratulate you. It was truly splendid performance. Honestly, I couldn't be happier for you.
Oh, thank you very much. I really couldn't have done it without you at my side through it all, Mrs. Sato.
Oh.
I mean, if you didn't tell me to stop twisting my neck, I probably would have died.
Your kind words mean so much to me.
Really was a splendid show, that, Naruto. I thought you'd be smiling from ear to ear. Well, you look rather glum, chum.
Well, of course I'm delighted about the verdict. Exposing the truth, I'm afraid I've caused my client a great deal of pain.
Really not sure that's what a lawyer ought to be doing. Oh well, in that case, I'm quite sure that when you see Lord Van Zeek's smiling face, everything will seem much better. Or the world will explode. I do not smile. Mrs. Sato, everything seems worse. You have a face like a thunder. Oh dear, I really shouldn't have presumed. Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah? Almost a year it's been now since I first encountered you here in this very courthouse. For you to have risen to the level of excellence you demonstrated today, well, it's quite remarkable. Objection, Reslain. I can't show it right now because we can't open the court record, but we have a picture of him smiling. So he used to be capable of it, if nothing else. Well, it's quite remarkable. But I exposed the most unpalatable truth you could ever imagine to court today. No, don't do it, Random. We probably missed a lot of them. Because I'm sure if you, like, press the wrong thing or whatever, or present the wrong evidence, he probably crushes more of them. Feels though I robbed you of something you held so dear. What was it he said? To fight those who dwell in darkness requires at least some of us to occupy the darkness ourselves. But that was just the feeble excuse of a coward. Only those with a steadfast eye for the truth have what it takes to fight the dark forces of crime, of evil. You made fine work of establishing that fact in court today. Oh. Well, thank you. What magnanimous words. Quite sure that Kazuma would have smiled on his face this very moment if he were here. Kazuma, he's still alive, you know. Nope. Still no smiles. Miss Sato. There's another face like thunder here. Oh my. And he really was here. Lord Van Zeeks. Allow me to congratulate you on your acquittal. Congratulate me or curse me. You failed to bring down the Reaper. I owe you an apology. No, it is I who should apologize. No, it's me who apologizes. No, allow me to apologize first. Your father, Genshin, if I had been stronger, then perhaps I made an unforgivable error in judgment. Can offer no excuse. And I can offer no forgiveness. That said, suppose you fought for justice and the truth. For that, at least, I can't withhold respect. Your words mean more to me than you could know. I will hold them dear. Kazuma, I'm glad you're not dead. I must say, there's one thing that's still bothering me. What's that? The will that Lord Clint Van Zeeks rode for his duel with my father. I don't think it was a duel. So he is a fine detective and a hunter worthy of respect. He has agreed to honor my final 2 wishes. First is that this document survives. The second, I cannot commit to paper. Confess my sins to my wife. May she find resolution in my death. My eternal gratitude that my Japanese friend, I rest my quill. Clint Van Zeeks. What could the second of his final wishes have been? That your father agreed to honor, you mean? I think perhaps. Oh, it was you. I never really am sure when he's gonna show up. I might be able to shed some light on that. What? Father? You gonna tap dance again?
10 years ago, as you know, day before the execution was scheduled, I went to prison to save Pharrell's Genshin. Why are you putting up more of a fight, Genshin? You only agreed to it. Shishiro and I would gladly petition the government.
We've been through this already. You don't need to worry about me. Anyway, Eugen, I have a favor to ask of you. Something of a great importance.
You're one of my greatest friends, Genshin.
I was gonna question why they wouldn't put his model here, but I figured it was 10 years ago. Surely he would look different and not be wearing the same exact suit. And yet here we are. Same exact angle, same exact suit, same exact sideburns.
One of my greatest friends, Genshin. Whatever it is, consider it done.
I'm going to tell you an address. Need you to go there at once, in secret and telling no one. You'll find a lady of the gentry in hiding there.
Lady of the Gentry.
Not in good way. And she's with a child. The birth is imminent. Is Iris gonna be Clint's daughter? As a medical man, I'd like you to attend to her. Please, you're her only hope.
By any chance the child's yours, Genshin?
Don't be daft. The favor of asking me by a man I knew, as his dying wish.
My goodness.
You're the man I would help. That I would do whatever I could do for his wife and his unborn child. But if something should happen to me, I need to ask you the same favor. You're the only person I know that I can truly rely on.
What did you say? If something should happen to you? Tomorrow night you're going to be... can't even say it.
Never know, though, do you? What life will bring.
Alright then, tell me the address. I'll head there at once with Seshiro and...
No, not with him.
Pardon?
Favor I'm asking just to you, and only you, Eugen.
Right. I see. Very well then.
Some of the VODs are gone. Most of them should be on YouTube, but admittedly I have not uploaded all of them properly. I probably did miss one though, and that usually just throws me off, because I'm like, oh well, I missed like 2 of them. That's gonna be confusing.
Very night I came across a train from Paddington to Dartmoor in Devon. Found the old house in the middle of nowhere. It was. An old hunting hound lay asleep on the grounds. Poor woman was on the floor at the back of a darkened room. She was in mortal danger. She had pink hair. Woke her waters to participate in labor before she weakened further, but it was a tedious birth. Did everything humanly possible for her and her child. And in the end, I was lucky enough to welcome a new life into the world. But tragically, my efforts to save the mother's life were in vain. I held the healthy newborn girl in my arms and wept for longer than I care to remember. Eventually, in something of a daze, I looked around at the room. There was precious little in it, but an old travel trunk caught my eye. Clearly been well looked at after over the years. Made of a top quality leather with a fine stitching. It was when I saw the emblem on the side of it that everything dropped into place. B for Baskerville.
But Baskerville? You mean the woman was the wife of Clint Van Zeeks?
That's right. Newborn was his daughter.
But that makes no sense. Why on earth wouldn't Clint have entrusted his child to my care?
You were like 12, man.
I was completely unaware he even had a daughter. I suppose he didn't really have any choice. What? Well, your brother said that he confessed everything to his wife. She must have been beside herself with worry for her child. The true identity of the professor were to ever be made public, the girl would forever be branded as the daughter of the infamous mass murderer. Only solution was to distance the young girl from the Van Zeeks family as much as possible. I don't believe it.
Madness' final hour, Lord Clint Van Zeeks made the obvious choice. Would have thought himself, this Japanese man here is someone I can trust. I honor my promise, Genshin, of course. However, only a month later, I was summoned back to Japan. Without disclosing the parentage of the child, I couldn't obtain permission to take her with me.
Oh, how awful.
I was completely at a loss. In the end, I had to ask my great friend. I asked him if he would be a father to her.
That being Mr. Sholmes, I presume.
Yep. Took one look into my eyes and agreed to it on the spot.
Mr. Sholmes, he has a heart of gold.
Really. All that can be said is that I did it for the child. Was to give her a name.
Oh?
When I'd come to Britain, I was trying to escape from the grief of losing my darling wife. So it was her name that I gave the little girl.
Your wife's name, Professor Mikotoba. In other words, the name of my mother. Ayame Mikotoba.
That's right, Ayame. Or in English, Iris.
I had no idea. Ding dong. Ouch! It's Naruto, what's wrong? That little thing just pinched me on behind through my trouser pocket, hard.
Ah, my dear fellows, can you hear me?
Mr. Sholmes, is that you?
Also, is that where he keeps all his evidence? Just in his pockets? Those are really big pockets.
Yes, we can hear you, jeez.
See what excessive chugging can do. Let that be a lesson to you, my dear fellow.
Mr. Sholmes weren't able to thank you properly before. But you were simply marvelous. Your checkmate move was a stroke of genius.
Indeed it was, wasn't it? I surpassed myself, I feel. It became apparent to me that stop my Lord Chief Justice was injustice. To stop the Lord Chief injustice would require such measures.
Bruno, Susie. I'm so pleased, what a wonderful outcome. Her Majesty Queen Vicky said she thought my special blend was delicious. Oh, I'm sure she did. After all, no one brews more delicious tea than you do, Iris. Let's have a party to celebrate. Mr. Reaper, you simply must come too.
What? I'm afraid I couldn't.
Reaper of the Bailey, flustered by a 10-year-old girl. Again. No, really? Oh, poo.
But I give you my word that I shall present myself at your residence in the near future to express my gratitude.
How would you feel if you suddenly found out you had a niece? You promised now, I won't let you forget. Bye for now then. Alright, Iris, thank you for all your help earlier. Oh, that was nothing. Come back home soon. Ouch, why? One final pinch goodbye, was it?
Well, I think I ought to be leaving. Lord Van Zeeks, would you care to accompany me?
Certainly.
Mr. Naruto, allow me to once again express my deep gratitude to you. I believe you saved my life.
Wait, Lord Van Zeeks.
What?
Yes? What are you intending to do now?
Well, clearly, I shall have to resign from the prosecutor's office.
Oh no.
I intend to publicize the full truth about the Professor case. Once that is done, the Van Zeeks family will be ostracized completely from London society.
Surely not.
So as soon as I am free from my employment, I shall leave the capital.
Oh, I see.
Don't be a fool. Oh, I was the wrong person. Dang it, I guessed. Although the actions of a man once fears the mighty Reaper of the Bailey, I beg your pardon. For the past 10 years, you've endured that sodium and been cast to one of the dark forces yourself. Now that you've finally been freed from that disrepute, your battle is just beginning. Surely. Well, I certainly never expected to hear those words from your lips. I waited a very long time to come to London. Now I'm properly here, I intend to learn all that I can.
Anyway, goodbye for now, Ryunsuke Naruhodo.
Kazuma Asogi. Seems as though he's really matured suddenly. Not the only one who's matured, Mr. Naruhodo. Eh? Well, I think we should make our way back to the Baker Street. Must help Iris with tonight's dinner. We must. Must we? It was then that I came to an important decision about my future.
Ah, another pleasant pheasant.
I'm home.
Boom!
Ah,
About time you got here. We've been waiting ages, Odo.
what are you doing with that colorful piece of history?
It's a party, isn't it? Gotta go off with a bang. I mean, fireworks ideally. But when you ain't got fire, smoke's the next big thing, ain't it?
Here's a girl on Fresno Street who could help you with that, I think.
Right? I'll remember that.
You don't have to reload that thing every time I speak.
You really must hear this. Quite most extraordinary thing. I assure you will defy your expectations. Take down every detail now, Mikotoba.
Ah, the world-famous great detective, regaling his partner with the tale of his adventure. A sight to behold.
Would you care to hazard a guess? Where do you suppose the fiendish runaway had concealed himself? Would you believe inside the trunk I found abandoned in his cabin?
I would believe it, yes, as I was there.
I say, Mikotoba, I detect not a hint of surprise.
I wonder why that is, hmm? Maybe it's because I was there at the scene as well, Sholmes. What? You were? Then why the deuce didn't you say so before?
Not quite the sight I was expecting to behold, but still. Hard not to feel privileged to see it. Hello, Mr. Sholmes, Professor Mikotoba. Finally back from the Bailey.
And not a moment too soon. Feast prepared by Iris and Mrs. Sato awaits.
I must say, I haven't seen Sato looking so happy in a very long time.
Bruno, there you are. Dinner's on the table, everyone. Please come take a seat.
And don't open the box, or you'll get knocked out.
Goodness, is that really true? Gina?
Yep, losing my compass club and going back to what I know best. It's a diver's life for me.
You're leaving the police force, but why, Kenny?
Well, boss ain't around no more, so...
Oh.
Anyway, no matter how hard I try, that Reaper ain't ever gonna accept a diver turned copper, is he?
Well, people can change, you know.
Ah yes, that reminds me. Rather thoughtfully offered to relieve this bailiff of now defunct piece of evidence.
Eh? Inspector's pocket watch. The crown's been reattached.
That watch was his pride and joy, symbol of his great achievements as a Scotland Yard. 10 years without fail, measured every second of the man's remarkable career.
Now, it's stopped. Someone needs to keep the memory of Inspector Gregson's career alive, taking on the great responsibility of winding that watch every single day again. Someone with equally fierce detective spirit.
Alright, alright. Gotta be me. Ain't no one else.
Quite right.
I mean, after all, boss was... Well, he was my boss.
Yes, he was.
Oh yeah, made you a promise and all, didn't I, Iris? I'd become a proper detective one day and track down your old man.
Oh.
Alright then, it's decided. I'll do it. And I swear, find your dad and bring him back kicking and screaming. I'm not entirely sure that would be appropriate.
Yeah, I think might be best to, well... I think like you forget that promise, Kenny.
Eh?
Iris? Well, obviously I've always wondered about who my real dad is. Of course I have. Want to know where I've come from. Want to know where I'd go. Thought I might tell me something about myself. I've caused such a lot of trouble trying to find out. For so many people. Hurley, Bruno, Professor Mickey.
Oh, no, not at all, my dear. Really. You owe no apology to anyone.
Well, anyway, I decided to give up on it. I finally realized, my dad, greatest in the world. I don't think it matters what his name is or where he's from. Don't you agree? Hurley? With every word, Iris. Thank you, Hurley. Thank you, Dad. Oh. I think, Mikotoba.
Yes, Sholmes?
I think that I ought to express my gratitude to you.
Oh?
For 6 years, you and I solved many mysteries together, and during that time, I remember countless expressions of gratitude from our ghost services. But a moment ago, I heard the most pleasing expression of gratitude from them all. And I should never have experienced it, were it not for you.
You old softy, Sholmes. But I must confess, it's a weight off my mind to hear you say it.
Well then, I think this calls for a lengthy violin recital, wouldn't you say? Oh well, the food will go cold, that's the only problem. Maybe next week, Hurley. Are you sure a week is long enough, Iris? Well, he would have missed the most troubling of cases, even reeling from the most shocking of revelations. Returning in the evening to this suite of rooms, there's always warmth and happiness to be had. The home of the world's greatest detective, and my home too, with my greatest family. And my messy attic room. This attic room has been my home and office for almost a year now. Certainly had some unforgettable experiences whilst I've lived here. But I think now, time has come. Time to bid this place farewell.
Naruhodo?
Oh, Professor.
Are you alone? Didn't hear any sound from Sasato's room.
Yeah, Sasato went out after dinner. Took a carriage. Something about important matters you need to take care of.
Ah, I see. Wanted to thank you for what you did earlier.
Oh?
With Iris, I mean. Stuff of her father came up.
One second. Penny's been scratching at the door, I think. Yeah, I'm back.
Made up my mind years ago to never tell her who her real father was. Won't agree with Genshin after all.
Lord Clan Van Zeke's final wishes before he died, you mean?
Yeah, never had to take some rather drastic steps at time to protect that secret, you know. Calling Sasato back to Japan 6 months ago, for example.
That's why?
When I read Saseki's report about his final days in London, my heart nearly stopped. Stumbled across the crux of that terrible case. The dog's collar. Description of the Baskerville insignia left me no doubt.
Baskerville.
Trying to investigate that insignia, sooner or later you made the connection to Van Zeke's. Make matters worse, Sasato knew of the unpublished story as well. Story that Iris had written based on my notes from the time.
Ah yeah, the Hound of the Baskervilles.
We should give the Baskerville collar to Toby. I'm sure that won't be weird, right?
Exactly. Work of fiction, but based on the grim reality, the huge beast of a dog uses a murder weapon. Dog with the Baskerville family emblem around its neck. Armed with those two clues, I feared you and Sasato might arrive at the truth. So I invented the story about having collapsed to justify her leaving London and returning to Japan at once. All in aid of halting the investigation you and she might have been contemplating.
I see. I mean, I've never understood why Sasato came across that manuscript in Japan, though. You know, Iris the Hound of the Baskerville story, I mean.
Jones sent it to me. That was before Sasato left Japan. Very troubled about what should be done about it, you see. I'd read it and carelessly left it on my desk, which is where Sasato came across it, of course. The only case Sholmes and I ever pursued that I didn't record in meticulous detail. I was somewhere I discovered that young Iris had pieced together so much of my paltry notes. Sholmes and I discussed the matter and decided that we couldn't allow the story's publication. At that point, I returned the manuscript by post to Sholmes for safekeeping.
You did all that to stop Iris from finding out the truth about her father.
That's right, because Sholmes had told me how astute she'd become.
So it wasn't to protect the professor case like I initially thought.
Having unwitnessed the events court today, I must say my opinion has somewhat shifted.
No?
I think at some point in the future, time will come for Iris to know the truth. When it does, well, I believe it'd be for the best.
I think so too. Actually, Professor, I wanted to talk to you about something too.
Judging from that expression, so you've come to a decision, have you?
Yeah, I have. I'll be returning with you to Japan.
You're quite sure?
Really only here as a substitute for Kazuma. But he's here in Britain now, as originally intended. Locum student Naruto doesn't really have a right to stay, I think.
I see.
Looking back now, when I first arrived here in February...
And Sasato wasn't wearing those things?
My becoming a lawyer just seemed to be the way things turned out. With Kazuma, Sasato, and Mr. Sholmes all gently pushing me in that direction. Spent the best part of a year immersed in this world, but always aware of the seed of doubt inside me. Till today. Standing in that courtroom earlier, all doubts vanished from my mind.
The little mouse with his hand on his hip.
Totally focused. I was sure of my belief in my client, and I was sure I could see the trial through. And the end of it, finally realized. No one else chose this path for me. I chose it myself.
Path of a defense lawyer, eh?
Yeah, that's what I am now. That's what I'll be going back with you to Japan as. That's the path I'll be following for the rest of my life.
Well, sounds like you've made quite a resolution there. You have the resolve for that resolution. Very well then. Must say, it's extremely welcome news. I'll make arrangements for your return first thing tomorrow. But don't imagine we'll be departing for a few days.
Now with the symposium having been cancelled now. Such a shame.
Never mind, I'm sure there'll be another opportunities in the future. Well then, I bid you good night.
Uh-oh. Sasato! Uh-oh. I just wanted to let you know I'm back. And then I overheard everything, awkwardly. Did you, hear what your father and I were talking about? Yeah, I'm sorry, I did, yeah. I couldn't help but... Oh, how much did you hear? Well... the part about Iris' real father, I think. In other words, from the beginning.
You know, everything. Made up your mind. You'll return to Japan and continue working as a defense lawyer.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I really should have consulted you about it. Didn't want to earlier this evening, actually, but you'd already gone out.
No, that's quite alright. I already knew that's what you'd decide, Naruhodo.
You did?
Well, yeah, I can read your brain, you know.
Oh, right.
What's with this locket sad music?
Sasato. I suppose this means it has to be farewell soon.
I suppose... I mean, what's she gonna do? Work for Kazuma, I guess.
Be a great help to Kazuma going forward. I mean, I know he's a brilliant lawyer, but he's new to the British courtroom, and also kind of a dork. Certainly benefit greatly from having a brilliant judicial assistant at his side.
I'll do my very best.
Wish I could say it, but I just can't. Can't ask her to come with me. After all, he was always supposed to be coming to Britain as a Kazuma's assistant.
Growing late. You should both try to get some sleep. Sure, you must be exhausted after today.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're right.
Before I retire, let me just say one more time. Hiya! And then she throws it out the window. You really were quite splendid in court today. So if you ask me, anyone who thinks of you as a substitute or locums should be ashamed of themselves.
Sasato, you're insulting Natsume, but I agree. Thank you.
Oh no, are both games in with a boat? Why? Probably.
Can't believe the day has finally come.
You're really leaving then, Bruno?
I'm afraid so, Iris. Thank you so much for everything.
I don't know what to do without your wonderful cookie and delicious tea. Oh, I wish you weren't going. But you have to come back and visit. Say you will.
Of course! I promise.
Well, very brief reunion, but pleasure to pursue a case with you again after all so long. A while, at least. Felt like old times.
Yes, I suppose on reflection, there's something to be said for it. Having a little fun once in a while. I was gonna say goodbye to the professor as well, I think.
Alright, Iris, you do that. Maybe without a gun, though?
Nope, gun is needed.
Honk.
Ruining the mood, Mr. Boat.
Susato-san.
Oh no.
I've just checked, Naruhodo-san.
Oh no, voice lines.
Already on board.
They took my job.
Such a beautiful morning. Perfect for embarking on a journey, isn't it?
Before I set off, I'd just like to say how thankful I am for everything you've done for me. And give my warmest regards to Kazuma, please.
They took my job.
I think you ought to give him your regards in person, don't you?
Sorry?
Sorry?
Ryunosuke,
Oh, there he is. Put your headband back on.
do you really think I'd miss my best friend's departure?
Yes. I missed your departure from this mortal coil, so.
To be honest, I'd been looking forward to our wild time tearing up the streets of Her Majesty's capital, but,
Well, we'll have to save that for another time. Personally, I'm looking forward to facing you in court again.
me too. But, we're both defense lawyers, so,
No, I'm still a
I'm
prosecutor.
going to become a prosecutor. I'll
Yep.
stay in Lord Van Zeek's tutelage for the time being, but before long, I intend to be just as formidable as the Reaper himself.
oh, I see.
Oh, okay. Well, that kind of ruins my plan.
Actually, Ryunosuke, I have a favor to ask.
Name it.
Name it. But also, another favor? Yeah, you can watch the anime, yeah. That works.
I'd like you to take care of this for me for a
I
while.
get the sword!
Karuma?
Karuma?
Why?
Because Brilly wouldn't stop asking.
Because I've seen it now. I've seen what's inside me. The demon that reared its ugly head that day.
You could also go to youtube.com/whatever
First of moments.
at Blue Mage Brilly's channel
Face to face with that
and watch all of the old Phoenix Wright VODs.
But it was unmistakable. I wanted to kill him.
Wanted to kill him.
I've always known there are demons that live inside people. And now I know there is one in me. The fact that it very nearly consumed
And it has
me
9
will carry
tails.
with me until the end of my days. While I devote my life to fighting those whose demons have got the better of them. As a prosecutor,
So, that's what you've resolved to do, is it?
until I'm ready to face the demon within me, to slay it once and for all. I leave this in your care. If you'll take it.
Of course I will. I'll keep it by my side. Always.
And maybe one day it will be in some weird case where I have to hide a note in its hilt again.
Until we meet again then. You have your path to follow, and I have mine.
Naruto, about that.
The path you're going to follow from now on. I wonder if I might follow it at your side, and unless I'd be a burden.
What?
What?
I mean, I would very much like you to come with me. But aren't you?
You're so predictable, Ryunosuke.
I am?
Honestly,
I
you
mean-
never change at all. But that's what I like about you.
You mean you knew about this?
It was the evening after Lord Van Zeek's trial came to an end. She came to see me at the prosecutor's office.
Really? Oh, when I had that conversation with Professor Mikotoba.
Topa? Is that how you say that?
So, you'd go with Ryunosuke back to Japan?
Yes, I know it's unfair of me to follow my own interests like this.
Coming here especially to tell me. You're a stickler for etiquette, aren't you? Well, what are his feelings?
We've never discussed it, of course, and Naruhodo-san has made no such suggestion.
It's because he's a nerd.
I worry that perhaps I'd be a burden to him.
He's just as much of a stickler for etiquette as you are. He'd never say anything before he was asked. But I'd feel happy knowing you were with him. Look out for him on my behalf, will you?
I'm not a stickler for etiquette. I throw etiquette down the stairs.
Susato-san.
They technically will be boarding a boat together, yes.
What do you think, Naruhodo-san?
I think I have
By my side,
no objection.
no trial would seem too daunting. So if you're willing, I'd be honored if you'd come with me. Together we can take on the world.
I'm terribly incompetent, but if you'll have me, I'd be delighted.
Oh, no, not at all. If anyone's terribly incompetent, it's me. Ah!
What's wrong?
Your luggage, Susato-san. There's no time. The ship's going to set sail any minute now.
It's all right. There's no need to worry. As it happens, my luggage is already on board too.
It is?
Your fine judicial assistant has everything in hand as always, I see.
She had no real question on whether you'd accept her or not. Just, felt rude not to ask.
Bruno, your ship's about to leave.
Ryuno!
Time to go then. Look after yourself, Ryunosuke.
Kazuma, draw your sword.
Oh? Well, I can't. You have my sword. We're gonna cross blades. As the sun rises. Will the sword still be broken, though? No. Yep, they didn't fix it. Good attention to detail.
When our paths cross once more, we'll fight a duel of words across the courtroom. A day I eagerly await as a lawyer.
I've been waiting to hear you say that, partner.
Don't know. Kazu?
Get me then, Kazuma.
As if I could, Ryunosuke.
Or just Asogi? Just Gigi, probably.
And Mr. Sholmes, thank you so much. I'm very much indebted to you.
Indeed, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe you are.
That accent does not suit you.
I'll never forget all you've done for me during my time in London.
Quite. I should like to think you will remember your debt of gratitude.
My dear fellow.
Especially when I visit you in your country. What? The truth is, although many are ignorant of the fact, the world is far smaller than most folk realize.
It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all.
Oh yes, would welcome you with open arms, Mr. Sholmes. Oh, that sounds wonderful! I can't wait!
Iris will be joining us, of
Let
course.
us conclude that this is to be merely a brief parting, my dear fellows.
See you later, my dear fellows.
And that brings us to
Was
the
there
end of
any
my
other-
adventures in Great Britain. A peculiar twist of fate brought me halfway around the world those many months ago. But that was just the start of my journey. Who knows where fate will lead me next? Still, I'm confident this won't be my last meeting with the friends I've made in London. And when we're together again,
I'm gonna have this tiny mouse on my shoulder.
no doubt the first words I'll hear will be,
Objection?
Come, the game is afoot.
Oh. Objection! We were supposed to meet 10 minutes from now.
With our friends from the east sailed steadily towards the distant horizon. But Sholmes's face was alight with joy.
This is what I sound like,
Times may
apparently.
change, but a steadfast friendship will remain true, Wilson. We have but to gently close our eyes, and we are with our companions once more.
So I do just that. And when I do, I can hear his strong, familiar voice ring out.
Objection!
There it is.
Until we meet again, Reno.
Objection! And that was the great Ace Attorney. Well, we made it to the end. I've been thoroughly infatuated with inquiries about my remote demographics since that day, but I'm no purveyor of electrical goods and would promise closed court secrecy. Anyway, I've decided absence from London is in order. Sojourn in distant climes. Empire of Japan, perhaps? I understand that wardrobe class incurs no charge whatsoever. Kazuya Nuri. They the one that decided to call him Sholmes? Gave a little note to Hurley the other day. It just said, "Thank you for everything, Dad." It made Hurley cry. Gave him some lotion I had been in as well, to dye his hair red safely. It also made him cry. He said it might make him cry too, so he'd rather not use it. Like, overall, there were definitely some leaps in logic, as Ace Attorney is known for, but it was a good game. Hopefully my voice acting didn't ring too heavily in your ears. Those days when I was known as the Reaper, I felt your presence. Once unable to bear the burden of the Green Episodium, I even retired from the courtroom. Despite everything, I still wear your prosecutor's badge with pride. But the darkness that once bested me has no more, and you too are no more. Words of a young foreign friend of mine, I must stride forward towards a brighter future. Though I fear I'll melt on the count of being a vampire. Just kidding. I was never a vampire. Just a bad joke. Boss left a note for me, you know. I'm gonna read every letter now. A to Z, the whole lot. Clear a load of stuff up. Boss was trying to protect me, see? But do we doubt? Exactly what me and Chief Inspector Toby here are gonna keep doing for Londoners. Only wish I could have said how grateful I was before he... You know. Didn't really expect Gina to be such a huge character when she first appeared. Figured she'd be the one-off character and we never see her again, but she was in like 4 cases. Gina, the truth is I'm not the upstanding fella you think I am. This is my letter, I'm guessing, because I'm dead. Might die of an art, but it's still a good art. Might be I need to be true to myself. Got one more job to take care of before it's out of London down to the foreseeable. Then, gotta complete your education, the art of detecting Lala Gregson, as they say. Sadly, Gregson is gone. I'm here too, Your Excellency. I was accused of illegally entering the Office of Minister of Foreign Affairs. Objection, objection overruled. Minister has been detained in Britain anyway. Who is this Scottish Counsel of Defense? The women are forbidden to enter the courtroom. Oh, really? My friend Sasato's preparing the courtroom all the time, doing a wonderful job. Why do you still have a black eye? I probably should have engaged the service of a regular legal team. Also might be the first time we've seen Natsume's side, and also he's covered in cats. Mamba, it's true about Japanese people. Are they expert at filleting corpses? Yes, they are. Fish corpses, on the whole. I'd like to hone my own filleting skills. You don't mind, do you, Mama? Yes, I do. I'm not a corpse yet, am I? I can fix that. No. And I'm glad. Oh. And where's the Ace Attorney Natsume edition? Where every objection is complete with a rant. Here I am in Great Britain under the invitation of my dear old university friend. He sent me a very nice letter saying he'd like to show me around now that everything is settled. What have I done? I was so excited I picked the Spinner Hotel, and now I can't afford the bill. Oh, Barak, come to my rescue yet again, please. I wish I could just vanish in thin air sometimes. Ah. Oh yeah, you were a thing. When I went to make waxwork impression of the killer in my cemetery, I realized what had happened. But even the witness stand of the highest court in the land, I could never speak of it. Lord Chief Justice and I had struck a bargain, you see. For a faithful reproduction of the visage, there was nothing we Tuspels would not do. Uh-huh. Uchida! I don't want no stinking Uchihas on my court case. Everyone calls me gossip. I sell jaunty little tidbits to passerbys, you know. Everyone calls me a Peppino. I sell the spaghetti. The more red, the more red. Everyone, they call me non. I cannot do it. This is ridiculous. Oh, Daily, how charming. You made lots of new friends here, I see. Yes, and when I've released, we're all going to strike it rich together. I don't see that one working out. If it might have ended, I knew that I wanted you there to see it. I ended up in the dock. No one I would have rather had defending me. But now, thanks to you, there's a new path I want to take. I'm sure we'll meet again in the courtroom, mighty friend. Till then, I leave Kuruma in your care. Your care. Not your car, you don't have cars yet. Well, her exhibit was technically just about Genshin coming out of the grave, and that did happen. Made some tea, Naruhodo. Important you rest whilst you can. Once we arrive in Japan, you shall be busy establishing your new office. So delighted to be accompanying you. After all, talents have been recognized by a great detective. Because you really are the greatest of lawyers. A great ace attorney, some might say. I said the thing. They are rolling credits. Now, when he kept that thing with him, why? Oh, and the cat was still there. That's nice. I don't remember the cat's name, but, you know, I'm glad they remembered the cat existed. Really just needed Van Zeeks behind Sasato. Well, and that's the true ending of our Ace Attorney adventures. You want to skip this? Yeah. That's just more credits. But it might have been Waggy. I don't know. Oh, a thing. There's no true secret ending that I'm aware of. Well, that will be the closing time for our great Ace Attorney adventure. We've reached the finale, and that's basically it of the game. I will have to think about what we're going to do to replace it up until, you know, Friday rolls around, and then I'll have a thing. Special content is all the characters and stuff. Ace Attorney lose all the things thing. Lose all of the records. But, you know, you got the tailor for all of the great differences in outfits. There's also apparently some extra things, but oh no, these are just maggots. Wait, what? No, and I don't wanna. I'm here to close the book, darn it. There's also all the achievements. And one of them is beat all the escapades, but I don't wanna. The Melina and responsible for the victim's hat. Is that an achievement I needed to get? But also, I'm hungry, so I'm gonna go find food. So, thanks so much for watching all of this, everyone. I hope you all have a good night. And I will probably see you tomorrow for more of something. Or maybe not, who knows. Thanks for watching and have a good night. Hello, Snowski. Hope you're having a good day. But too bad. No more logic and reasoning. Can't object to that. But boy, for now. Have a good night.
Goodbye.